All right, everyone. Thanks for your patience as our trustees move from one meeting to another meeting to another meeting. I will call this meeting, this regular meeting of the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees to order. And we will begin with our roll call from Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Madam President. Trustee Finster. Here. Trustee Frankel. Here. Trustee Simon Holland. Here. I'm here. Trustee Mayer is absent. Trustee Raymond. Here. And Trustee Taylor.
I am here.
And Student Representative Chacon.
All right, welcome. All right, we'll go right into our pledge, and we have a couple of guests here. We're going to ask Pastor Brent Brooks, who will be later on the agenda, but we'll ask him to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone please stand. This one you lead, yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay, we'll go right into agenda item 1.04. Is there any public comment?
Leslie Griffin.
Mr. Griffin, they are, sir, welcome right there to the podium. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to speak in favor of Save Wild Creek. And stop and think for a moment. The school district wants to put a high school on Wild Creek Golf Course. And if they do, we're going to lose a golf course. Now, if for some reason, who knows what reason it might be, the school isn't built on Wild Creek, what are we going to have? There is a school going to be built. We all know that. So then if that's the case, we're going to have a school and a golf course. Who would rather have a school and a golf course? Or who would rather just have a school? Or who would rather just have a golf course? I think probably everybody would rather have a school and a golf course. You might say, well, if we have if we're not able to build a school on Wild Creek, then what extra is it going to cost to build a school elsewhere? Well, if we lose Wild Creek, our community is losing an asset that's worth, I can't tell you exactly what it's worth, but I've heard people say $30 million. Paul McKenzie, Reno City Councilman, said there was a golf course refurbished up at the lake. It cost $46 million. But we know that it's going to be tens of millions of dollars if we lose that asset. And I would ask you, when do you think Washoe County is going to come up with $30 million for a new public park? I wouldn't hold my breath. It's not going to happen anytime soon. So if we don't build the school on Wild Creek golf course, we end up with a school and a golf course, and I believe everybody would win in that particular case. One thing I know for sure is that tonight we're going to be releasing a statement from our attorney. We have an attorney. We feel like we have a case against the school district building a school on Wild Creek, and we could end up in a court fight over this, and I don't think anybody's going to win over that. We do have time, though, between now and the time that this could come down to talk about it, and I would invite the school board to come and talk with us. Who knows what we might come up with? We have some ideas. Maybe they're not the best ideas. We think they're good ideas. But one thing for sure is that we'll never find out if we don't talk about it. There's a proverb, I don't know if any of you believe in the Bible. I do. But there's a proverb that says, if you have a case with somebody if you're going to be going to court, on the way to court, stop and try to resolve your problems before you get to court. Everybody wins if you can do that.
Mr. Griffin, I'm going to have to cut you off, sir, but we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Batchelder?
That's all I have at this time.
Okay, we have no other public comment cards that were turned in. Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to go on to agenda item 1.05. This is an action to adopt the agenda as presented, and I'll ask my colleagues if there's any desire to make any changes to the agenda. Otherwise, I will entertain the motion to adopt the agenda as presented before us.
So moved. Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show that it is unanimous. We will now jump right into board reports. Agenda item 2.01, and we're going to start to my right with Vice President Simon Holland.
Oh, thank you, Madam President. And may I say it's so nice to have you back here leading the meeting. We appreciate that very much.
It's good to be here. Thank you for that.
Couple things. Today, Trustee Raymond and I participated in the job readiness interviews at McQueen High School, which was just a great treat, and some amazing and wonderful young people that are getting ready as sophomores to face the job world. I did a school visit at Galena High School, which was wonderful. Had a great visit with the principal, and then I attended a webinar that was titled "Building Our Best Board," and got some great ideas that I'll be happy to share with our colleagues. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Holland. Trustee Frankel?
Thank you, President Taylor, and it is good to see you back.
Thank you.
One thing I want to mention, there's been so much going on, and actually what I will say is I had the opportunity to participate on behalf of the board and as a representative of the district in a survey process that the library is doing on their strategic planning process. And they asked a number of questions about the strengths and opportunities of our community, and one of the things that I said was the involvement of very involved and passionate community members. And I do want to appreciate the folks who reach out to me, because I have been very, very busy with constituents in the last few weeks, probably more so than usual on a number of different topics. Mm-hmm. So I want to say thank you to the involved community members for caring about what we do here at the district and for reaching out and letting their voices be heard. One of the most exciting events I got to participate in the last 2 weeks was the topping off ceremony at Damonte Ranch High School, which was the placement of the final beam in the expansion. So I want to thank our communications team for doing such a great job of getting that set up. And it was so great to be there with the kids and with the students and to sign the beam and watch it go up and participate in that process. And come rain or shine, we're going to celebrate our capital construction and building of new schools, because it was raining, but we did it. And it stopped raining just at that moment when the crane lifted it up. It was like something was looking out for us, that it was just going to happen and we could all get out there and not totally get drenched while it happened. And then it started raining again. So it was perfect. And I really enjoyed being there. And again, thanks to the team of Clark and Sullivan and all the hard work that they've done to get this addition and this expansion up so quickly, and to the team at the school for keeping the school running so smoothly and so well during what is a very complicated construction process. And of course the parents and community members for being able to come in and out of that school and understand the traffic constraints going in and out of the parking lot. So I think it's been a great process overall. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I was glad to be there on our behalf.
Thank you, Trustee Frankel. We will go to our student rep, Ms. Alex. What's going on with the Student Advisory Board?
A few of our students are actually flying to California on Friday to attend a youth leadership conference. So that'll be interesting to see what we learn and what we can talk about, and just see, I guess it's kind of like an SEL-driven type of thing. So we're just going to learn about different ways that we can take initiative in our schools and stuff. So that should be interesting to see. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. We'll jump right across the table to Dr. Finster. Board report for you, Trustee Finster.
Pardon? Oh, okay.
Board report.
A million miles away, I'm sorry. First of all, again, I'd like to welcome you back. President Taylor, you've been sorely missed, so thank you for being here. And it's kind of nice listening in on the phone to you sometimes,
Thank you.
That voice sounds so far away, but yet so pleasant. So
well,
thank you so much.
That. As I say, it's better to be seen than viewed. So. Just saying.
We still enjoyed you. Last Saturday, I attended the Nevada School Board Association for the state of Nevada in Las Vegas at the Tuscany. Nice place, nice place. And what I like to say about that meeting is I walked away feeling so good about Washoe County, and I will echo it forever. It feels good when other board members from other counties are saying, oh, well, we just stole that from Washoe County. So stealing it is not so bad. Copying it is not so bad, as long as they tweak it just a little bit, because I felt so proud that they were using our stuff. So thanks to everyone who work on all the different committees, because people are watching us. And the reason why they're watching us is because you know that Las Vegas is going through a lot. So they're looking to us as the next most credible place. But I could have told them that. They didn't even have to look any further. We're very credible. So they're always looking to us, so we have to stay on our best behavior. Dottie Merrill was very also adamant about saying she looks to Washoe County for a lot of answers to a lot of questions. So it feels good when someone is saying that. So I just want you to know, keep up the good work, because they're looking at us. And they're going to be looking at us for a couple of years, especially since Las Vegas is going through their little switcheroo of some sort. The other thing I'd like to add is that I worked with a couple of students in the community. I really focused on students in the community. And I got a lot of help from Chief of Staff, Mr. Lasik. Awesome job. Thank you so much. I could not have done it without you. But I do know that we need to work really hard with minority males. It's very important that we do that. And it's something that hopefully we can discuss as a board someday, because I do have I have a lot of experience in that. My dissertation is about minority males, but parents are very concerned. One thing would be suspensions. I did speak with Ben Hayes about this, and he was very excited that we spoke. So our conversation was very productive, and we are going to get something rolling. The other day I met some students at Walgreens out in Spanish Springs, and they were just sitting down. And I went up to them. I just started chatting with them about their school. What an opportunity to just have the most fruitful conversation about school. Great opportunity. I took the opportunity to ask each student about, it was all females. They were from Shaw Middle School. Just sitting, just hanging, that's all. But I have to tell you, they love their principal so much, and to me that means so much. First of all, when they know their principal, that's important. And because believe it or not, you could go around and ask students their principal's name, and I could guarantee you that you will be disappointed in some cases. But these students knew their principal, they loved their principal, and they invited me to come and have lunch with them. So I told them I would do that just as soon as I returned from a convention. So that's something I will do. But God, what love for a principal. And that's Gina. What's Gina?
Gina's last name?
Leonard. We've got to get that information to her, because they were just, we just love her. She's so much fun. And you start to feel that excitement with them. The other thing is I was at Reed High School, and I wanted to go to this one class, and I was so impressed. The secretary just jumped up and she said, Debbie, I'll take you down there. She took me down, and as she was opening the door to the hallway, there was a little student dressed in a suit, and he had a trach. And she said, oh, hi, Josh, how are you? And he said, he just looked at her as if, where did you come from? But the first thing he said is, you know me? How do you know my name? That is so important. It is so important. This guy couldn't even walk straight after that. He kept looking back at the secretary and what that meant to him. You know me? How do you know my name? He was beaming. So I just cannot stress enough, how important that is, just to be a welcoming school. And it starts with who's ever at that front desk, because I have opposite stories that we won't go into. The other thing is I ran into a parent, former student of mine, and we spoke in the store. And her mom evidently had spoken to her about our board president. Well, I received a call saying that she wanted me to give something to our board president, the student, who is a third grader at Catherine Dunn. And it is just so sweet. It says, she's never met you. She said, would you mind giving this to the school board president? And I said, sure. And she'd like to see you someday, and she'd like to meet you. Her name is Johanna. She's at Catherine Dunn, and she wrote, we love you, Angie Taylor. And I mean, you know, it looks small, but you guys, it means so much to her, and it just meant so much to me. And I understand that there's also a little video clip for you that I can share that with you later. But this, look, I mean, just look at this. But it was from the bottom of her heart. I mean, so, and for her to understand, you know, so I hugged her with tears for you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's really sweet.
It's from her, we have the video. And that's it.
We all know where my next school visit will be. That's really sweet. Thank you, Dr. Finster. Trustee Mayer is at an NIAA meeting, and so he's absent on today, so we'll go to Trustee Raymond.
Thank you, President Taylor. As Vice President Hall had mentioned, I got to be at McQueen this morning for the interviews, which are great. Did a few other school visits in the last 2 weeks, made it to Libby Booth with Trustee Mayer, which was an experience to go on a school visit with Trustee Mayer. I recommend it. And then I visited Worcester and Huffaker. So thank you to all the principals and teachers who allowed me to slip in and out of the classrooms and just see all the great work they're doing. And then had a few different constituent meeting type things, just trying to help better connect kind of the work that the district's doing with some of the. I had one meeting up at the university with the dean of the College of Liberal Arts, and then another meeting with Art Town, and just kind of all around what work the district's doing in arts, and also just how the community is supporting that work. So those were great. And then lastly, I got to do a ride along with the school police, and just want to thank Sergeant Lawrenson for letting me tag along. He felt terrible because nothing happened, which was fine with me. So I promised him that I would be back before spring break, because evidently it's a little nuttier then. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Merriman. Chief, if you can make sure something happens the next time a trustee goes on a ride-along.
If I could add, he was actually late getting there to pick her up because there's a whole bunch of stuff happening right before she came.
Oh, all right. Okay, timing. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Trustee Raymond. Clerk Kelly.
Thank you, Madam President. So Trustee Mayer and I, we participated in the Student Advisory Council, which was held last week. And it was great to hear the students talk about ways that they can support different initiatives, and some of the ways that they talked about bullying and some other issues that are important to them. And Alex did a great job of chairing that meeting. And she had some fun exercises for everyone to do. For instance, she would give us two options, and we could go to one side of the room depending on which option we chose. So for instance, one of them was, are you an indoor person or an outdoor person? And so people would go, and then each side would have to explain why they were one or the other. And one of the options was, do you prefer the mountains or do you prefer the ocean? And so I chose the mountain side, and I spoke up for our group, and I said that there's more things that can kill you and eat you in the ocean than in the mountains. So that's why I prefer to be in the mountains. So yeah, I got a polite chuckle on that one as well. So that was great though. And then I did visit a couple schools, and I've always found that if you, it's great to visit a school at the very end of the day, because then you can stand with the principal and you can watch the principal, saying goodbye to the students and chatting with the parents and saying goodbye to the teachers. And it's just really neat to kind of see that dynamic. And then if the principal wants to continue the conversation with you, then they can take you into their office, and they don't have to worry about anything because most people have left, and then you can have a great chat. So I got to visit a couple schools and talk to some principals, and it was really great.
Thank you, Trustee Kelly. limited time, but I did have an opportunity to do a couple of things I think that are related to us. One is the city of Reno had a celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, which, of those of you that may not know, is from September 15th to October 15th, and I was able to be a part of that. But the important thing there to me is that the relatives of Agnes Risley were there. They were there because they gave her an award and a recognition. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool, because you think about all these schools that we have, and you don't really expect to ever run into their descendants, but that was pretty cool. I thought that was very special. And then last night I was at Trustee Frankel and I were both there at a speaking event at the university, and the thing that stood out is one of the people on the Associated Students of the University of Nevada Programming Committee that put the event on is a former member of the Student Advisory Board here from Reed High School, Austin. I don't remember his last name, Austin. And so it was just great to see him there. He was moving around, working and doing things. I'm like, I remember when you were on the Student Advisory Board. So it's just great that those leadership skills, back to the conference you guys are going to be attending, some of you are really carrying forward, as they continue their education. So that was just a proud moment for a trustee. Like how we helped train that kid. That's why he's doing a great job. But other than that, I just appreciate all that you guys have continued to do as trustees to represent us and get out into the district and visit schools and so on. I can't wait until I'm able to get back to that as well. I'm pushing and pushing. So can they let me do stuff? And hopefully, I know, don't push, but I have to push because, I'm about over it now. But anyway, but it's just really great to see the trustees is doing so much. I think that's so important for us. And so it's just, as much as I miss being able to do so many things, it's just great to see that they still know the trustees are involved and mindful, are engaged in what's happening in our schools and in the community. So again, if I haven't thanked you enough, I want to continue to thank you for that. And Vice President Simon Holland, thank you for filling in so ably and continuing you continue though, whatever you need. What can I do? I mean, you continually do that it's been since February, since March now. And, so I'm very grateful. I never have to worry about what's going on. And I do worry. But I never really do, because I know that, your leadership is great. As a board, you guys are working, we're all working for the same things. And so it's just really good for me to know. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, Superintendent Davis.
Thank you. I want to start with, I'm sure it was an adventure to go on school visits with Trustee Mayer. It always is an adventure. But man, you see how he really loves kids, and it just comes out, and he thinks about his former days as a principal and a teacher. I did my middle school visits. So we did Shaw Middle School. We actually went to Jan Evans and did a visit with our students there and the teachers there, and also Inspire. And I just want to say, when we do these visits, they are so kid-driven about getting to the finish line. And I talk for probably 5 minutes, and then they get to drill Kristen and I on all kind of questions and what they want to ask. And at Jan Evans, it was actually pretty special to talk to the kids and remind them that we all make mistakes and we get back up, and we have an opportunity to do better and get to the finish line. So really good. Went to Inspire, and I tweeted out pictures of the work we do for kids, because sometimes we really forget about the pre-K. And there is a kiddo, Edison, who cannot walk. He is 3 years old, but he is so adorable. And when you see him in that environment, and the teaching and the learning and the technology and all the things that are going on with the kids. However, I did get sick because I forgot about preschool and what that was like. So the next day I was coughing. I'm like, oh my goodness, but their hands are on you. But the activities, the teachers are doing wonderful things to engage these kids in 21st century learning at an early age to get them to the finish line. So kudos to all the schools that we visited and pictures. And of course, we share those out in the Friday Minute. Alexis, you have your hand full with this group of student advisors. They're a vivacious bunch of students, full of character. So they are lucky to have you leading them, but I would support any of you coming to those student advisory meetings. As you know, they are kind of funny too, and they challenge us and ask questions, but great ideas. And when we talk about student voice, what a powerful tool. So thank you for leading that advisory council this year. It's going to be fun, a great group. UNR had their annual Gear Up presentation for students in Gear Up as part of TRIO, and I know we're going to come back and talk about that, but last week they had a celebration on the campus, and it was nice to see all our students and talking about first generation students going to college and things they wanted to do. So very, very powerful. I visited the Special Education Advisory Panel, and we started that panel a year and a half ago, I think. But they're doing some amazing, amazing work. And as they look at their benchmark and their strategic plan for where we want to go, I truly believe the things that they want to implement in our district will really be ground setting and really be a model to look at across the country. Oh my goodness, I was busy this week. This weekend, Public Education Foundation had a Education's Hero Gala Award, and I tried to tweet this out. I had the pleasure of taking a picture with the late Senator Debbie Smith's daughter, Erin, and her husband, and they honored Senator Smith for one of the awards. And it was funny because they were talking about all her work, and it's in Southern Nevada, but when they talked about one of the things that she championed, and I remember this clearly when I first took over, was the WC1 piece. Like, she sat me down at Starbucks. Her husband's like, yep, that's her office, Starbucks. And we kind of talked about that piece. And I remember being new at the job, and she's like, this is what I got in my mind. You'll be able to carry it out. Just be ready to go. And when they called her name, we talked about WC1, and there was a big cheer because they knew how important that was for us. And so we are so proud to carry out the legacy of WC1, because that's the legacy of her work is about all kids in Nevada, but part of that piece really impacted us. And then finally, the Piccola video, as JJ geared that up, and we've been talking about all this work we're doing around Facebook and getting the message out about what we do well. The Marvin Piccola school video we're about to show you, it's a very encouraging story. It's like a story within a story when you see it, so if you've already watched it, don't spill the beans, but the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, how amazing. I want you to know that this video, as of today, has 22,300 people reached and 10,872 videos viewed. So when we talk about trying to spread the word about the things we're doing, I think this work we're doing around Facebook Live, getting the word out about our building, right? This is about WCSDbuilding.com. I think it's evident in the numbers. People are seeing what we're doing. So roll the video.
When Emma was first diagnosed when she was about 6 months old, we had just moved to Reno from California. And we thought, here we are in our opinion, a small city, and we don't know if there's going to be the resources that she needs. And maybe we should be moving back to, Los Angeles or San Francisco, where there's more resources, there's more options. And then we found out about this school, and we have not looked back.
Why don't we restart that?
Community provides to this school. We're really, really fortunate. When Emma was first diagnosed when she was about 6 months old, we had just moved to Reno from California. And we thought, here we are in our opinion, a small city, and we don't know if there's going to be the resources that she needs. And maybe we should be moving back to, Los Angeles or San Francisco, where there's more resources, there's more options. And then we found out about this school, and we have not looked back, and we could not be happier about the support that the community provides to this school. We're really, really fortunate.
Marvin Piccola School serves students from across the district that have some of the most severe medical and developmental challenges. This school was built in 1975 and had really not seen much updating and significant repairs since then. But now, thanks to WC1's passage, that's enabled us to do a huge renovation, what we call the revitalization, that started earlier this summer. The updates that we're able to make for this school are making a huge difference, not only for the students, but for the staff members who spend every day here teaching and helping these students from across the district.
This room was torn down to the beams, literally, and this is a remote access door now.
You can just feel it when you're in the classrooms, when you're in the hallways. The students are happy. It's great. You just definitely see that, and the staff is very appreciative and happy about it as well. This is really the first time that they've had new furniture and updated technology and wiring and access to things of that nature, and so they love it. They definitely feel appreciated and more like a normal part of the community.
These two sandwiches start with letter A, okay? We teach a lot of life skills for the students, functional academics, vocational skills, social skills are our main focus, community skills. Good. The active boards for sure, the new smart boards, just because that's something I've always wanted since I started, to help with the students, the modeling, the more participation, more meaningful participation. Yes, it means a lot. It makes it much easier to be the best teacher that you can be. Just have that environment be the best that it can be really helps.
It was in that spirit that we were able to make all of these really amazing modifications to the school. They listened to parents, they listened to me, they listened to our staff, and they really listened to what we needed. They didn't treat us like any other school. They understood the need to customize. This is a blessing beyond belief for our kids. You talk about allowing them the opportunity to take advantage of curriculum and experiences. This gives it to them.
It's just incredible to see the revitalization of this school that took place over the summer and came down right to the wire. But on the first day of school here, we see new floors and paint and incredible technology in the classrooms, and it's just a whole new school.
I tell you, when we walked in the building, not just the teachers, aides, custodians, there was just this enthusiasm and excitement. And one of the things that was said to me was, thank the district for doing this. We're so grateful for all our employees that come in and day out and do the work for our children. And this is just one way for our community and the district to say thank you and acknowledge the importance of WC1 and ensuring that all our buildings are taken care of.
Good. There's another group too, and that's the families of these kids. And I hope that they see the commitment of this district to the kids, because we want them to be happy. We know they have tremendously difficult lives, tremendously difficult challenges. This is for them to make their lives a little bit easier, know that their kids have a beautiful, safe, secure, and healing environment every day when they come to school.
Oh yes, she's treated like royalty here. And she always has been. That's why we love it here. She gets a lot of one-on-one attention, not just from her teacher and her aides, but from a lot of the teachers here. When we go down the hallway, they love to come out. They love to say hi to her, good morning, and she really responds well to that. The sinks in the classroom, they lowered them to the height for the children, which is really nice.
Got it, girl.
So she can stand at the sink, she can wash her own hands. Everything is very accessible to her. So they like to use the microphone with her, that way she can hear herself and the teachers can really hear her speaking as well.
Who's there?
Emma was diagnosed with kidney cancer last school year, and the support that we received from the staff here was unbelievable. They sent cards numerous times. Her teacher put together this beautiful portfolio of artwork created by the students in her class with poems that they had written. This school not only academically has been really wonderful for Emma and for me, but personally they have gone above and beyond anything I could ever ask for.
I'm really proud to be a member of this community and this school district because they continue to make a commitment to the most vulnerable members of our student body, and those are the students who attend Piccola. And their commitment to the families and to the students really ups my commitment and the commitment of my staff to serve. And it's really a point of pride for all of us to be able to serve at this school.
This coming summer, we're going to finish an even bigger part of the revitalization to redo all of the rest of the floors in the hallways, update the heating and the air conditioning, the heater in the pool, which is used for some physical therapy for some students. At the end of that, this will be a very, very different school. Again, all made possible by passage of WC1 and this community's commitment to helping every student across the district.
So I want to thank the communications team. They're doing such a great job of building these videos so we can share that work with the community. So shout out to Riley, Jeff, and the whole team for doing that piece. And then I'll close with Hispanic Heritage Month. We have so many people in the community who's really started to be vested in this work we're doing. I want to give a shout out to Beatrice Urabi, who published this Hispanic magazine, but I want you to know on the last page of this magazine, her dedication was to WC1 and the work that we're doing. And also inside the magazine, we invited her to come along for the first day of school. And when we talk about reaching different populations that we haven't had, this is another partnership, how we can get to those who, and this is completely in Spanish, so I have to have someone sit down and translate, right? It was a great article, but I think that's powerful. So we're reaching many, many communities. So a big shout out to Beatrice for highlighting us in this edition of the Hispanic Heritage Month. All right. Oh, this is my copy, sorry.
All right. Thank you, Superintendent Davis, and really just to the outreach that the district has been involved in with non-traditional populations, whether it's Hispanic Heritage Month, whether it's those students and families and staff involved at Piccola. I mean, it's really, I as a trustee just take great pride that those renovations started at Piccola at our first opportunity to do that. It really sends a message that school is really, really important, and it supports that the principal said our most vulnerable students have. It shows that they matter, that they're really important. So kudos to our trustees that were involved in that, and to the district for prioritizing that, because those academic opportunities for all students matter here. And then just a little special nod for the drone footage. I mean, it really gives a whole different view, and so the way those are being utilized, I mean, it's a student, Trustee Frankel? It was a student that did that from the Monty Ranch. Fantastic. I mean, it gives us just a whole different look. So gives me great pride to see that those things are being done in areas where I think they matter most. They matter most. Okay, so now we're going to agenda item 3. This is our consent agenda item. We have quite a few items numbered today. Items 3.01 through 3.22. And as always, we'll certainly ask for those questions that pertain to these consent items that were asked by Vice President Holland be included on the record. Always very good, more deeper dive information that I think is important for us, and certainly will be important for the public. And I ask if any trustees want to pull an agenda item. I would like to pull agenda item 3.22. Which is the adding a representative to the share committee, and we also have a new staff member, so I think we'd like to pull that out and just acknowledge each of them. Are there any other items any trustees would like to pull from the consent agenda? Trustee Frankel?
I was actually going to ask the same thing for 3.22, but I actually have just a couple of comments, and maybe we should just pull it for discussion. 3.08, if we can go ahead and pull that out.
Okay, we're going to pull agenda items 3.08 and 3.22. Any other requests for a pulling from the consent agenda? Trustee Holland?
Thank you, Madam President. One of the things that I had mentioned to the staff in my questions about some of the items was just to make sure that we include accountability for results and impacts in our professional services agreements, just as a general question. And I think Ms. Huckabee will talk to us a little bit about 3.08. But just as a general rule, I want to encourage that when those contracts are brought to us, that is identified. Here's the impact that this is expected to have, not just the activities, but here's the result that we're holding that contractor accountable for. And I just wanted to share that on the record.
And thank you for asking that in your question. And I think that's a great general rule, because it's really, the agreement is about the outcomes. And it gives us an opportunity to look, is this working well for us? Is it doing what we want it to do? And that makes it very intentional, and very well known, very transparent, if you will. That's what we're looking for. That's what it's about. So I think that's very good. Thank you for that. Any other comments or requests to pull? We have a pulling agenda items 3.08 and 3.22. If there are no other requests, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
And just if I might,
please.
We did want to clarify on 3.07. And Ms. Huckabee will clarify that should be for Carolyn Hatcher. Is that correct? We just want to make sure that's on the record, that the teacher is Carolyn Hatcher. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Further, Trustee Kelly?
So I'll make a motion.
Please.
That the board approve agenda items 3.01 to 3.07 and 3.09 to 3.21.
Thank you so much. Is there a second? Second. Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposition? All right, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. So we'll drop down to agenda item 3.08. And we see Mr. Doring, and Mr. Doring is leaving. We see Miss Huckabee. Bye, Mr. Doring. Thank you for being here. We so appreciate you. Miss Huckabee, please, agenda item 3.08.
Good afternoon. My name is Dawn Huckabee, Chief Human Resources Officer. And I just wanted to provide the board a little information about 3.08 and what WestEd does as an external evaluator. So because our TIF, which is Teacher Incentive Fund grant, is a federal grant, there is a requirement for us to have an external evaluator who comes in and looks at the work that we're doing and provides an analysis for us on the different initiatives in the grant. So WestEd was selected to be this external kind of overseer that gives us information on how we're doing within the initiatives. And what has occurred is WestEd has provided us information regarding our student learning objectives, which has become a part of the evaluation system as a part of the Nevada Educator Performance Framework. They have also provided us information regarding how our STEM instruction has gone, as well as our performance-based compensation, our career lattice, which is also a part of the TIF grant, where we've started different incentives for teachers to remain in the classroom but do additional work so they can earn extra money doing that. Also, what was in WestEd's comprehensive report was about our 21st century learning, because we do fund some positions in 21st century learning through that grant. So it is a requirement that we have this entity come in and give us an analysis, and we are happy to provide that report to the board so that you have that information. This will be the final year of the Teacher Incentive Fund grant. We are requesting that WestEd do a final review for us and have a comprehensive look at what has been accomplished over the life of the grant.
Thank you, Ms. Huckabee. Trustee Frankel?
And thank you so much, Don, for that information. It's one of the reasons, and you answered a lot of the questions I had, or explained a lot of the things that I thought were important to acknowledge about this relationship, this contract with WestEd. And one of the things I was going to ask for was to get some information, because you mentioned that they provided information on SLOs, STEM, Career Lattice, and 21st Century Learning. And I think what I think would be helpful for us to see at some point, and it wasn't necessarily today, and I'm certainly fine with this item and moving forward on it, I wanted to just request the opportunity to see the results of their analysis and what that information looks like. How are we doing? They're national experts, and it's very important to me to be able to know what they're finding as they do these evaluations of our important programs.
Absolutely. We'll be happy to share that with the board. One other area that they provide an analysis on is human capital management systems, which is our MyPGS system that we've implemented for evaluations. And I will let you know that we've made significant changes into how we do things just across the district as well, not just within the 9 TIF schools. So we're happy to share that information with you.
Thank you, Ms. Huckabee. Trustee Frankel, any further questions or comments on that? Okay, fantastic. I will entertain a motion then if there is no further discussion.
Move approval. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Huckabee. And now we're dropped down to agenda item 3.22, and I see Ms. Kendra Fox coming forward, and I know there'll be a couple others that will be introduced along the way. Thank you so much.
Hi, Superintendent Davis, President Taylor, Board of Trustees. I'm Kendra Fox. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And when I was here last spring talking about the changes to the advisory board and the update on the SHARE curriculum, Rochelle Proctor, the new SHARE coordinator, wasn't able to be here. So I wanted to introduce her to you formally so you could put a name with a face, and then she will take it over from here to introduce our new advisory committee member. Just push that right there.
Welcome, Ms. Proctor.
Well, thank you. So I would like to introduce our new Share Advisory Committee person who is filling the faith-based position, and it is Pastor Brooks. So come on up, Pastor Brooks.
Welcome, Pastor Brooks. Thank you for being here.
So this is Pastor Brooks, President Taylor, and
Pastor Brooks, since she's sliding the microphone over to you, and
that's fine.
You know, and you're a pastor, so so easy. Yeah. We got do we need to clock 3 minutes for pastor? No, we're okay.
Dr. Taylor, the last time I was drafted to lead the Pledge of Allegiance, I think I was probably your age. So I found myself Googling it afterwards to make sure I got it right.
That was actually a secret test we had before we would approve your recommendation.
Well, I was well interrogated by your team. So I just, I don't have a speech to give. I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve. I've served on school board committees in the past, not here, but elsewhere, going back 25 years when my daughter was an elementary school student. Now it's my grandchildren, my grandsons are elementary school students. So I appreciate the opportunity to serve you, serve the community, serve the religious community, serve the parents, the grandparents, and I want to thank you for that, and just thank you for your service. We're all volunteers here, so I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you, Pastor Brooks. Ms. Proctor, we want to welcome you. Thank you for being here. It's a very, I'm going to say, exciting time for the Share community and the work that you're doing. It's really important work ahead of you, so thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Ms. Fox, anything further? Okay, if there are no other questions, and Pastor Brooks, thank you for stepping forward. We know that it was an interesting time for the Share Committee in the spring, and there's been a whole reboot, and so your willingness to jump in and be a part of that process really means a lot to us as a board, I'm sure, and then also for the community. So thank you so much for being willing to do that. Very well respected pastor in the community from Reno Christian Fellowship, so it's an honor to have you. I will entertain a motion from the board if that's your pleasure at this time.
Move to approve agenda item 3.22.
Okay, thank you so much, Trustee Raymond. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposition? Okay, the motion is carried. Let the record show it is unanimous. And thanks to all of you. Thanks to all of you. Pastor Brooks, I know that you've been to school board meetings before, so go ahead, feel free to, not here but others. Say, different community, same school board meeting, so. All right, now on to agenda item 4.01. This is a discussion and status of the implementation of the bills from the 2017 Nevada legislative session. This is only for information and discussion, and we've missed you, Ms. Anderson, after seeing you so much during this session, so thank you for being here.
Hi, Dr. Taylor, School Board Trustees, Superintendent Davis, Lindsay Anderson, Government Affairs. Thanks for having me. I'm back to do sort of a quarterly, I think we informally talked about an update of the implementation of bills from the 2017 legislative session. So put together kind of a few slides here. I know several of you attended the School Boards Association's legislative debrief where they handed out this is the abbreviated version, I think it's 20 pages. So I tried to keep mine a little shorter and sweeter. I know you have this as a reference, so I'm not going to recreate it for you. And I took the liberty of trying to pick the ones I thought you would want to hear about. So certainly if I've something, or if there's another bill you want to look at either today or at another time, please don't hesitate to let me know. But I'm going to move pretty quickly through here unless you tell me, oh, this is fancy. I don't think I did that unless you tell me otherwise, so feel free to stop me. But I started with the bills that impact our fiscal situation. I know you had your budget meeting earlier, so we'll start with the money. Senate Bill 49, I started with that just because that was your bill this legislative session. It's a little too early to quantify the financial impact that will have on our district, but I think we can all be proud to say that now every single special education student across Nevada is acknowledged for having additional needs and resources and getting additional funds. So we don't know exactly how much that's going to benefit our district yet, but we know it will. And then the weighted funding formula. So this was a big, high-profile piece of legislation this session. $72 million over the biennium went into funding weights for students. So you've heard about this weighted student funding formula where we acknowledge that certain types of students need additional resources to be successful. Washoe County School District ended up getting about $382,000 of that $36 million really in the first year. That was an unexpected result. Even up until the 11th hour of the legislative session, we were looking at more of a $5 or $6 million allocation. But the way that some of the language ended up shaking down at the very 11th hour, that's not the way it worked out. I think everyone acknowledged that's not what they were expecting. In fact, I just came from a meeting with Senator Dennis, who was the sponsor of the bill, who said, "I'm sorry, that's not what I meant to happen." So I think it's good that there's been some acknowledgement that that didn't go exactly how we expected it, and acknowledgement that they're willing to revisit and make sure that the legislation shakes down in the way that they intended it to in meeting the needs of all of our students. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that again as we move into the 2019 legislative session. And then Senate Bill 544, this is just calling your attention to the main K-12 funding bill. So if there were questions about specific grants and programs, that's likely where it lives. Many of those competitive grants are open right now, I'm sure. All of our team here could acknowledge how furiously they're working on filling out those competitive grant applications. I'll move on. We have 3 slides here about changes to things affecting our high school students. So maybe this is a future agenda item for a student advisory board, because lots of changes as it impacts our high school students. And I'll just really quickly go through, because we could spend all day on this, and I know you don't want to. I do, but you might not. Assembly Bill 7 is really the big one, changing the way we do end of course exams and moving those from a high stakes to a medium stakes, which is currently, we're in the thick of that with the Department of Education about exactly how that's going to shake down. It looks like we're going to do a phased implementation where the end of course will have to be 10% of their grade next year, 15% the following year, and 20% in that third year, and stay at 20%. So kind of a phase in as we move to this medium stakes. And then also this idea of a new diploma type, a college and career-ready diploma, where there are different credit requirements in addition to having our advanced diploma, our honors diploma, and our standard diploma. So a lot of pathways for our high school students as they look towards graduation. Assembly Bill 64 is creating an alternative path to a standard diploma for our special education students. That has a direct nexus to Assembly Bill 7 as we move from end of course from medium to high. I think that we're waiting for the Assembly Bill 7 to figure out their process before we move to Assembly Bill 64. And then a series here around course offerings. So requiring Senate Bill 200 will require computer science to be offered to our students with a relatively long phase-in period up until 2022. But we did get a direct appropriation in that bill for professional development so we can be sure that our teachers, by the time this is a requirement, are trained up on how to deliver that new instruction. Financial literacy will change the way we do government, so it will ultimately, and again 2022, shift government to being a 1-semester class, and that second semester being more economics and financial literacy, in addition to additional standards for grades 3 through 12 being developed on financial literacy, so real heavy emphasis on financial literacy for our students. A STEM and STEAM seal. In fact, our chief academic officer and I were texting earlier today about the STEM and the STEAM seal. You may remember from 2015 we had the seal of biliteracy, which acknowledges our students that end up being biliterate by the end of high school. These are new seals, a STEM and STEAM. So I think you know what those are, STEAM with the addition of arts. So a series of course requirements, grade requirements, test score requirements to be able to get those additional seals. And then civics education, a big emphasis on civics this legislative session, will require our high school students to take a test similar to what you take to become a United States citizen. So sometime during the course of their high school career, our team's really working on figuring out how to make that easy, accessible for our students and for our teachers. And I promise I'm moving quickly. The competency-based learning, looking for schools and sites that are interested in moving to more of a competency-based learning pilot program. And then two big of the governor's education package around SB 19 and SB 66, increasing access to our students for dual credit opportunities in lots of different things, not only in college courses, but also our CTE courses and any other type of credit that our students could get from a dual credit perspective. And then work-based learning, that's kind of the new term for internships, and really hoping our private sector will step up and provide opportunities for our students to do work-based learning. Of course, you want to hear about legislation impacting you. You remember Assembly Bill 451, which requires some additional training on behalf of the Board of Trustees. I've been working with JJ, developing a system for tracking that and posting. There are some sort of punitive aspects to the bill in terms of if it's not done, it has to be posted on a website and highlighted. And so we're working through exactly how we're going to do that. But through the Association of School Boards, they've provided, I think, a really good framework for making sure you can get all that training through them. But if not, what does that look like and how are we going to keep track of it? But I think we're on the right track there. And then recently it was brought to your attention that Senate Bill 247 is kind of a potpourri bill, included one thing that changed our posting period from 15 to 13 days, so we can do that in a regular meeting cycle now, which was something we had asked for. And then you also at a recent policy committee meeting talked about a bill around student freedom of speech and legislation impacting that, so I just wanted to highlight that one for you also. So we've incorporated that legislative language into our policy. Several bills around the safe and respectful learning environment for our students, an extension of Senator Smith's Safe to Tell program from the 2015 session. We're working with the Department of Ed and have 13 pilot schools for this upcoming year. Senate Bill 225 made some modifications to the existing language around the bullying policy. So we've incorporated that into our training and delivered that training to our school sites across the district. And then Assembly Bill 292 also was around notification of parents by a particular deadline if a student is involved in a bullying incident. Safety, I know this is one that you particularly asked about and are interested in. Senate Bill 287 was Senator Gansert's bill that does several things around student safety, requires our non-licensed staff to do a background check every 5 years. So our licensed staff go through that process as it is, as licensed teachers, but this will be other non-licensed. Also requires some additional screening for our regular or unsupervised volunteers, and I emphasize that because we're working with the state, Senator Gansert and Legal Counsel Bureau to determine what regular means and make sure that we have an interpretation across the state that is uniform. And then we're also looking at how we're going to pay for and staff this additional increase in our background checks. Assembly Bill 127 is around emergency management. It's a bill Assemblywoman Teresa Benitez-Thompson sponsored in 2015 and didn't quite make it through the deadline, so she brought it back in 2017 and worked with Chief Trevino extensively on making sure that we supported that legislation and are implementing it with fidelity. I won't go through all these. I'm taking too long here, but human resources, a code of conduct. I brought that one to your attention because that's coming to you from a policy standpoint. Also, performance evaluations, teacher evaluations, that's a big one. Some pretty big changes around our SLOs and removing the use of state test scores. I know Trustee Frankel could probably talk your ear off about all of the meetings at the Teachers and Leaders Council about that legislation. Some additional financial incentives for teachers. I know you just talked about the TIF grant. This is another program. And then passing the trash, which will require additional screening to make sure that there's no sexual misconduct from our staff. This is the last slide. I had to throw in our operations side. It's not all about academics at the school district, but they did extend the construction manager at risk legislation. So we are using that, as you have seen. I believe that there's a couple contracts coming forward. And then one just small modification on our operations side, where we'll be including a baby changing station in our new school buildings as complied with that legislation. So that's my update. Happy to go more or less, and we'll do this again, in another period of time to come back and tell you that we're complete. But a lot of work has been done on behalf of your team to execute this legislation, so grateful for that.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Questions, comments from the trustees?
I'll just add that Senator Dennison actually spoke to me over the weekend, too, before he spoke to Dennison about the shakedown of SB 178. And I think there's a lot of work to be done around that weighted formula because it didn't actually come out the way we all thought. So I think people will be thoughtful around that as we look at budget shortfalls, et cetera.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. I see Trustee Frankel and then Trustee Kelly.
And thank you so much, Ms. Anderson, for this report. And I know this was something that Trustee Holland and I went to the NASB presentation on the legislation, and to have a quarterly report on the status of the legislative changes is really important. I had no doubt that our staff would be on it and moving forward as you have described, so thank you for that. I know one of the pieces that directly affects the Board of Trustees that we talked about at that meeting was the training component, which is, I think, one of the, you mentioned that the legislation discusses the punitive nature of it, that if we don't get the training. And I think one of the things that both Katie and I suggested is that we actually do it the other way around. That most of us, as I know, go to a lot of training. I think it's going to be easy for this board to actually comply with those requirements, and I think we should put it out there that we have. And so we kind of joked around with the other members of the boards around the state about how we should all put it out there. And so maybe NASB is going to actually acknowledge the boards that actually have complied, rather than do it punitively, actually acknowledge that we all are very committed to our own professional development as board members. So I just wanted to mention that and encourage that as the internal process gets developed, that we think about ways to actually keep the public informed of the fact that we're actually complying, not just with this particular piece of legislation, but with the others as well. But I wanted to highlight that one, given that it directly affects us. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Trustee Frankel. Clerk Kelly?
Thanks, Lindsay, for coming out and kind of explaining some of these high-level snapshots. And I really appreciate knowing the financial impact, if known. That's really good. And maybe one thing I would like to know for the next time that you come before us is, what would be the time impact for some of these bills on our staff? Like, I know some of these Assembly bills and Senate bills have training requirements, and others require committees that need to be staffed by teachers and principals. And so I'd just like to know, like, what's the number of hours that it looks like we're going to be asking staff, particularly teachers, to be leaving the classroom in order to get training and other things to fulfill some of these. Because if it's something significant, I think that's something we should know about, and maybe legislators should know about it as well. So,
thank you, Clerk Kelly. Yeah, really good point. Other comments, questions for Ms. Anderson? Okay, this is not an action item, but we certainly thank you for the update, and look forward to another one next quarter as we monitor our progress. Thank you so much. Okay, next on the agenda, we'll move down to agenda item 5.01. 5.01, we have some guests here. This is a presentation and discussion of cooperative programs with the university to provide support to Washoe County School District students to become the first generation college students, including the DFS, Dean's Future Scholar, Gear Up, Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs, and Upward Bound. This is for presentation and discussion, and we're going to just turn it over to our Director of Grants, Ms. Lauren Olin, and I know you have guests. One's already here.
Yes.
And I see others.
Right. There are others. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, and Board of Trustees. For the records, I'm Lauren Olin, Director of Grants, and as you requested, you all wanted to hear about our career and college ready programs and how we're helping our students succeed not only in high school but have dreams for higher ed and for college. So today we'll be talking with you about Gear Up, Dean's Future Scholars, and the TRIO program, which right now has Upward Bound. So with me today will be Mary Luz Garcia from Dean's Future Scholars and Ellen Houston from Upward Bound, and they will be introducing their students. And for the record, our student for Gear Up is from Worcester High School, and I'll let you go ahead. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Yasmin Gallegos, and I go to Worcester High School, and I'm currently a junior.
Welcome.
The two biggest questions I received by being a Gear Up student is, what has Gear Up helped me overcome, and what has it done for me? One of the things that it helped me overcome is taking that doubt that how am I going to pay for college. Like, in my household, it was very important for me to go to college. My parents are pressuring me to go to college, but in back of my head, I always had that doubt. Am I going to make it to college? My mom was working like 2 jobs at the time, so how am I going to just like let them pay for my college? And I wasn't sure I was going to pay for college. because of the money situation. And when I met Miss Jimenez, Miss Mari, she helped me so much, like with the college trips, with like the workshops, the scholarship workshops. I have expanded my scholarship knowledge so much that I'm confident and I'm ready to go to college. And then something that Gear Up has done for me is overcome my shyness, because like 3 years ago I wouldn't be able to come and speak with all of you, which is an honor. Yeah, which is an honor, because I was a very shy girl, but now Gear Up has helped me so much, even with my shyness, and helped me pay for college and expand my college knowledge about everything.
That was awesome, Ms. Gagos. That was awesome.
Okay, so can you flip to the next slide? Or is there a clicker? Oh, sorry. Okay, so we're in our second set of Gear Up funds. This is a usually 7 to 8 year grant, and what's unique about Gear Up is it follows the students from 7th grade all the way up to when they graduate high school. Each year we get about $275,000 that we split between Worcester, Hug, and a few students that we have at AACT. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you about this? And most of the money goes directly to the students to support helping them get ready to go to college. As you can see by this slide, the primary focus of Gear Up is to ensure low-income and minority students are on track to graduate and prepared to enter a career or higher education. And these are the state goals. So Nevada Department of Ed actually wrote this grant, received it from U.S. Department of Education, and then they sub-granted awards to districts. So all these goals are the goals that Nevada Department of Ed wrote and that we have to follow in the grant application. Here's a little snapshot of demographics for our Gear Up students. And as I said before, we're serving Hug, Worcester, and AACT. Currently, our students are in 11th and 12th grade, and as you can see by this slide, about 87% of the students are minorities. 3/4 of these students qualify for the free and reduced lunch program, and more than 2/3 of the students have limited English proficiency. And here's a slide that talks about how the cohort started. So in 2012-13 is when we first received this grant, and those students that were in 7th grade then are now 12th graders. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about AACT. So the way the grant works is students that started at Trainer or Vaughn and went to Worcester or Hug are automatically in the grant application. So students, when they arrive at 9th grade, decide that they may want to go to AACT. So those students that were traditionally or normally scheduled to zone for Hug or Worcester are now at AACT are still included in that grant application. Okay, so the program requires that Gear Up students have an individual learning plan. So every single student that's in this program has one of those. And this plan serves as a roadmap for students to make sure that they're on track to graduate, but also helping them make decisions during their middle and high school years, that they're taking the courses that they need to take in order to position themselves to get scholarships and qualify for the type of programs that they want to go into in higher ed. Gear Up has 4 student parent involvement facilitators that we call SPIFs, and we do have one here from Worcester today, Anna. And the facilitators work with all 3 schools and make sure that they connect with the students, they get to know the students, they find out what's going on. They take them on college trips. They do financial aid planning with them and their parents. They work with the Gear Up ambassadors, which are the people that work at the higher education, UNR, UNLV, and do STEM camps like in the winter, things like that. So just to get students used to being up on campus, seeing what it's like to go to college, and giving them exposure to maybe some of the disciplines that they'd be interested in. Also part of Gear Up, which is a key part, is parent involvement. So the SPIF spend a lot of time communicating with the parents, providing workshops for them on financial aid, talking to them about scholarships, about how to apply for applications, all those type of things. So this is a critical part of Gear Up, and it's something that actually we're measured on in our grant evaluations. And another thing that we look at is also helping the PIFs build relationships with all the students, so that the students know that they have another caring adult in their life to make sure that these people care and that there's a reason for students to come to school and do well so that they can go to college. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mary Luz Garcia, who will talk to us about Dean's Future Scholars.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jeff, I have a question.
Sure.
Ms. Olin, just go ahead, Trustee Raymond.
So the grant ends in 2021, is that correct?
Right, one more year, because the second cohort of students right now are 11th graders. So it will continue for them for next year.
Okay.
So it ends in 18-19.
Oh, okay. And will this be a grant that you reapply for to continue, or will that be the end of our Gear Up program?
It's not up to us. It's a grant that actually the state has to apply for. So if U.S. Department of Ed funds that program again, I imagine that our Nevada Department of Ed would like to apply for that grant again. And if they do that, I don't really see a reason why Washoe County wouldn't apply for a sub-grant.
And is there a certain number of students that were accepted in those cohorts? And
no, it's by enrollment. So whoever was in middle school is automatically a Gear Up student, which is a great thing.
Yeah. Great. And so there's no application process from the parent or the student to be part of it. They're just automatically.
No. There is a parent form that says, your child is part of the Gear Up program, and explains to the parent some of the things that will happen during Gear Up, the type of activities and what they can expect.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm understanding the cohort part. So currently this year, it's 11th and 12th graders that are part of this program only. We're not doing the program at the 7th or 8th grade level right now.
Right.
It started there.
Right. So if you look at this,
yeah.
if you look at this slide here, we were awarded the grant in 2012-13. So the first cohort was 7th graders, and that's why I said this grant is unique, because it follows the kid. It doesn't start again with every 7th grade student. There were 2 cohorts. So, there was a year of 7th grade, then they move up to 8th grade and so on. And then there was a second cohort. So that second cohort started in 13-14.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, Trustee Raymond? Okay. Awesome. Yes, Trustee Holland.
So what was the total amount of the grant? Was $21 million over the entire period? How did that work? Wow.
And so each year we are receiving a base of $275,000, and then as the state monitors the funds, they'll see that maybe somebody hasn't spent as much, and then there'll be supplemental funding that they give us. So it's around $275,000. It may go up a few thousand depending on what the state has.
Okay. Right, thank you.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I think I'm done with Gear Up, so we'll have Mayor Luce come up. Thank you. Do you want to put this? Yeah. Okay.
Welcome, Ms. Garcia and company.
How do I work this? Hello. Thank you for being here. I'm glad to be here. I don't get a chance to sit in front of you guys very often, but I have to give you a personal thank you. I have two little ones who attend the developmental pre-K program at Hunter Lake Elementary, and I have to give a shout out to our folks at Child Find, transportation, all of the early intervention in our school district. We are spoiled, and it's made a huge impact on my little family. So I just wanted to start off by saying thank you. It's a game changer, and Celeste and Latrell say thanks.
Well, thank you.
So my name is Mariluz Garcia. I've been in the College of Education a long, long time. I got my first degree in elementary education, and Miss McNeil was actually my first principal. And then I switched over to school counseling, and I worked at Dilworth and Glen Duncan, and decided to go on for a PhD. I'm working on my equity and diversity, so I want to hear about your dissertation later. And I'm almost done with that, but I've been the director of the Dean's Future Scholars Program, we call it DFS, since 2012, and I don't have a typical school counseling job. I'm responsible for raising about $500,000 a year. We are a grant-funded program, and it's an awesome story, so I wanted to share that story with you here today, and then I have an amazing student that I want to introduce you to at the end. But our story started in like the dean's office closet in the College of Education, like teeny tiny little room, 7 of us. It started in 2000, and Dr. Sparkman saw the changing in the demographics in our students and said, hey, we need teachers, counselors, and administrators to reflect the student body. But he started with a cohort of 50 students and quickly realized how difficult it was to help these young, low-income first-generation students graduate from high school. And so the program evolved into this pre-K beast that has now served over 1,200 or almost 1,200 students in the last 17 years. I'm going to talk fast because I think you guys have this information in front of you, but the purpose of the DFS program is to increase the high school graduation rates in our school district and to provide exposure to college, and we're ultimately here to support the students in whatever path they choose. It's totally individualized. Yes, do I want them to go to college? Yes, but if they choose to go to the military or go directly into the workforce, we'll support them along the way. I think what's cool about us is we start in the 6th grade, minimum 6-year commitment, more like 10 most of the time and beyond. So it really does become a DFS family. These are the schools that we partner with. It's literally a tap on the shoulder that they get in 6th grade. And they have to be low income, so free or reduced lunch eligible, or neither parent has earned a bachelor's degree. Most of our students are both, as you can see. But there's no application process. They're literally tapped on the shoulder. They fill out the packet, and they kind of show up at UNR going, what the heck am I here to do? But we don't let them out of our sight. And so it's really that early intervention that is the hook. Here's our demographics, very, very diverse. 91% students of color, but I'm really proud of our partnership with the tribal community out in Nixon and Wadsworth. So we're working really hard to reach even the more underrepresented of the groups, and I want to highlight this. It's super interesting to me that our fathers and mothers, about 60% of them have not earned a high school diploma. So that gives you a really clear picture of what it means to get these students to the graduation line, and so I wanted to share that with you. Here's our secret. It's not very complex. It's 2 things, really. It's near-peer mentoring and summer programming at UNR. So we have 399 kids in grades 7 through 12, all of our schools. We follow them wherever they go, through good times and bad. We don't let them out of our sights. And near-peer mentoring is unique. It is college students helping students. I'm a school counselor, but I have a bias. I think college students do it really, really well. And so many of them, 91% of my team, are DFS alumni. And so they go back to their schools, most of the time to their zone schools, and give back to the community that they came from. And they know, they can walk the walk and talk the talk and talk to these students about the barriers that they're going to face. And that's the reality of it. So that's what is our heart of our program, is our near-peer mentoring program. We have 320 students, and Soup Davis can testify to this, and David came up this summer. We bus them, we feed them, we educate them. It is like a little school. I should be paid like a principal for the record, but I'm not. So I believe I was in action item 3.07, so I hope that went well, that discussion there. I pay myself, though. So the hook is in the 7th and 8th grade year. I mean, we trick them. This is like fun, coming to college, you could do this, and then we hit them with the academics. And it's hard. Math, STEM, college classes, and they give up every summer, basically, to us until they get to college, and even then they're still stuck with us. And so we offer a lot of services during the summer. Parent engagement is huge. It's a big part of why we're such a big family. But one thing I want to point out, this is a P16 effort, and the bottom bullet there, the DFS Lounge, is a really powerful weapon we have. It is a small room, probably the size of this back area, nothing fancy. I'm talking couches, a fridge, a microwave, and some tables. And that is open 24/7 to our program participants, the ones that come to Nevada, even the ones that go to TMCC utilize it. Free printing, key. And they take naps and they study together. And it's that social capital that keeps them on campus and leads to our really, really strong college retention rates, especially at the University of Nevada. But I have to admit, I'm not going to lie, we haven't always been great at graduating students. This is us. This is the reality. When our program first started in 2006, we were struggling. We were struggling right alongside the school district. And we've learned some things. We've implemented some research-based practices. We have the funding to do some awesome stuff now. And we're in, the mid-90s to up, 98% high school graduation rate. This year's cohort, 2017, I work with Ben Hayes' team. They give me my graduation rate numbers, so I have some apples-to-apples comparison. I expect this group to be about 95%. We had a couple of teen parents last senior cohort, and I had a young lady that struggled tremendously with some mental health, anxiety and depression. So we want it to be 100%. I really want it there, but it's just, there's always something, and we just do the best that we can. And I wanted to provide a snapshot because you guys don't always get to see what happens after. I have the best job in the world, and I get to see these young people leave the school district, come to the university, and then just flourish as professionals. And, they're becoming lawyers and engineers and teachers and all of these amazing things. We're growing these future leaders, and we're capturing about 3/4 of our students into some sort of post-secondary option. Of course, there's about 1/4 that go directly into the workforce, but we're seeing tremendous success. And I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to come share our story, and I'm going to turn it over to Eliana so she can share hers.
Hello, my name is Eliana Rayano. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. I was recommended to the program when I was in 6th grade from Corbett Elementary, and then I went to Vaughn and graduated from I went to DFS every single summer. I wanted to be there. The first 2 years in middle school, it was all fun, just getting exposed to the campus. And I was first generation, and nobody in my family had gone to college. I didn't even know what it looked like in there. And when I went there, I'm like, man, this is big. So I think that I saw myself there since middle school. Like, in middle school, I was like, I want to be here. I want to come here. I don't know what I want to be, but I already pictured myself there. And I don't think I had ever really talked about college before. I know my parents always told me, do good in school, but they couldn't really help me. They were barely learning the language. So I didn't really have anybody to turn to until DFS came around. And when I was in high school, middle school and high school, I had a mentor that would come and check up on me every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They would come and see how your grades, how are you doing? Do you need any help? And it wasn't just academic stuff. It's like, how's life at home? How are your siblings? How are your parents? So it just really made me build that relationship with others. And I knew I could ask them about anything. And I struggled, even in high school. Some classes were hard. They were tough. I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. So they're like, hey, there's mentoring, tutoring. You could come. And there were other mentors in the program that were there on Saturdays to give up their time. And hey, you need tutoring? We have somebody majoring in math and they could help you. So I know I could turn to them for that. And even when I was in college, they continue to support me and check up on me. How are your classes? Oh, I'm struggling with this class. Hey, so-and-so is in this class. You could buddy up with them and help each other out. And so I graduated not just with the standard diploma, I graduated with my honors. And Thank you. And so I graduated from Worcester in 2011, and now I graduated 2 years ago, and I've been teaching. This is my second year teaching. I teach at Roger Corbett, so my life went full circle. And I knew when I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to work with kids, but not just any teacher. I wanted to work in a Title I school and be able to give that help and support to other kids that were just like me, like not have anyone there, not sure. And I know last year I taught third grade. Tell them every day who is going to college. First time I asked, not all of them raise their hand. I'm like, I need to see everybody's hands up. Everybody's going to college. So I'm really talking to them about college at such a young age. And this year I'm teaching kindergarten. I'm telling them about college. So just the earlier, the better. So just DFS has really given me all the tools I need to be successful. I would not have changed anything about it.
I want to add something before Mary Lou's, before you try to sneak away from me, because you always grab me. Dean's Future Scholars Program, if you have an opportunity to visit that in the summer, it is simply amazing. And I know I was on a tight schedule, and she's like, we want you to come speak. And I think there are so many things that happen behind the scenes, too, because sometimes we have challenges with funding, and somehow you and the chief of staff worked it out so we could pay for buses for our kids for transportation. That never shows up in a memo. That never shows up in a board. But just the work behind the scenes that the staff do to collaborate together for the success of our kids. And one of the things that happen, usually I talk for 15 minutes and then they get to ask me questions. And the question that was, what's the graduation rate for the Washoe County School District Superintendent Davis? And of course I'm all proud about it, and they were, just so you know, in DFS, this is what our graduation rate is. So I think there's remarkable work being done. And also always appreciate you putting me on the spot in front of the kids. She loves to put me on the spot, and I had like about 10 seconds to learn a dance and perform, and I was wishing it was the chief of staff up there to embarrass him. But I tell you, it means so much to the kids when we talk about relationships. One of the things that come out of there is when the kids are talking to me who've been through, who want to be teachers, they're in school right now. And so I think it's building a pipeline of educators. And as we look at diversity in one of our challenges, I think DFS is the way that we are truly building our own and giving back to our community. So thank you so much. And I'm not sure why you went from third grade to kindergarten. That's really crazy. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. Oh, no, wait. We have a couple of questions. Hang on.
Actually,
Dr. Finster.
It's a comment. I just want you guys to know that the person right to the right of the superintendent truly had a lot to do with the beginning stage, the incubated stage of this. Angie Taylor was just phenomenal. I remember her just calling, saying, "Do you have any money for buses?" And I'm like, I don't, but I know who to go to. Jim Barkley, Ben Hayes, Lauren's department, everyone was there. It was just, we weren't going to let anyone down. And, all I wanted out of it was, okay, Angie, tell me what's the menu, because she really put on a good menu. And that was great. We had some great food going on. I don't know where you got it from, but great food. And it was just so wonderful to see all the students coming from all the different schools, and to know that they were tapped in 6th grade, and to just look forward to that one opportunity going to the university every year, knowing that they would see Dr. Taylor up there, just just being the cheerleader for everyone. And it just felt so good. Never had any problems. We just all success. So thank you to our school board president, because I tell you, she was in at the incubative stage, and like I said, many other, Jerry Holloway, Jim Barkley, those guys were involved when we thought this was just a little dream. Well, it was just a little dream. So Dean Sparkman really made a difference. And Angie, thanks to you, because it could not have happened without you and all the energy you put into that. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, Dr. Finster, but really the dream was that of Dr. Edgington. I mean, that was really, it was his dream, his just wanting to do something to help kids and to help diversify teachers. And so you are a part of that pipeline, and I know the mission has since evolved, somewhat, but still helping kids get through school, which is really the bottom line. But it was really his work, and that was just a blessing to be able to be there at the beginning. And it's so fantastic for me to see just how the program began and just where it's gone, and really looking forward. And I guess that's my question to really the both of you is, where do you see the program going? Because I know it has evolved somewhat, which is, you have to certainly be sensitive to what's working and what isn't. Where do you see it going?
Everybody wants us to grow, and we're growing. We received a pretty significant gift from the university's foundation. I have to go through the foundation, which is a big barrier. It's one of the kind of the downfalls of being on campus is I can't approach donors. They have to come to us. Thankfully, the school district's been there through some really scary times. We're always scraping by. It's difficult. I'm not a fundraiser. I'm a school counselor. And so coming up with $500,000 a year is a miracle in itself. And I should give myself a pat on the back, but it's very difficult. And I think once people come see us, the program speaks for itself. And so I invite any of you, if you have friends that are interested in helping low-income first-generation students to come. But we received a grant to grow 60% in 5 years, and we're almost at the end of that, and I'm feeling it. Summertime is where I feel it. Mentoring is happening at the school sites. I have an army of mentors that go out to the school sites, but summer is tough, and I know Upward Bound can speak to this. It is tough with the restrictions on campus and the tight quarters. We're fighting for space up there, but we've managed to do a lot, and it is like an ebb and flow of children up in there, and so it's really exciting. So I think we got the recipe down, Dr. Taylor. I really do. I think we finally, after 17 years, and it was rocky in those beginning years. I mean, you can't tell a kid to come be a teacher, and they're like, I want to be a YouTube star. Like, what the heck are you talking about? It's a tough sell, but we're hooking them. We're hooking them later. We're hooking them at the graduate level when they become mentors themselves. And so we've got it down. We just need to be sustainable. That's my wish to the universe. Throwing it out.
Well, thank you so much to the two of you, and thank you for your work, and thank you. You're an outstanding alum of that program.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and
Turn that on, Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm still don't know how to push the right buttons. And so our last presentation today is with Ellen Houston with UNR's TRIO program, which is Upward Bound.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Victor Medina, we're all very familiar. Yes. Welcome back.
Thank you. So yes, we are I'm the director of the Upward Bound programs. My name is Ellen Houston. I've worked in access and equity programs at the university for 14 years since Dr. Taylor hired me. So thanks for the career path. It's like the greatest gift you ever could have given me. There are 7 different types of grants which fall under the TRIO umbrella. Upward Bound happens to be one of them. We have 3 programs currently at the university. 2 of the grants serve Washoe County School District. 1 serves 2 schools in Lyon County. But what's exciting is that our Washoe grant has been funded continuously for the past 50 years, which makes us one of the oldest continuously funded Upward Bound programs in the nation. And you are all invited on November 8th to come to our 50th anniversary celebration in the Knowledge Center Rotunda. I will make sure to send an invite. But we are really excited. That's something unique for the university and this school district. We're really, really proud of that. I have some good news. We'll make it till at least 55 years because we are funded through 2022 for all 3 of our Upward Bound programs. Within Washoe County, that's at $653,911 a year. And so it's a total between all 3 of our grants of $4.5 million over the next 5 years. So that's really, really exciting. I got to click. So we serve 186 first-generation income-qualified students between our 3 grants, 136 in Washoe County. We provide really intensive support services. We pride ourselves on providing outstanding college preparatory services. Within Washoe County, we serve Sparks and Spanish Springs on our Truckee grant. That's 50 students. And our Washoe grant serves Hug and North Valleys for 86 students. We're a federal program, so we are governed by the Code of Federal Regulations for Upward Bound programs in how our students are selected. We have no choice in that matter. We recruit out of our target schools and feeder middle schools. Students can join Upward Bound as freshmen, sophomore, or junior students. We recruit out of 8th grade so that we are with them from the beginning of their freshman year, but we also save some spots so that students can come in later. We can't recruit seniors, but that makes sense because if you could do that, every Upward Bound program in the nation would find a bunch of 4.0 seniors and recruit them and have perfect numbers, but that is not what we're about. They have to be income qualified. That is based on federal TRIO guidelines, and it's 150% of the federal poverty level is how they determine low income status. They have to be first generation. That is just determined by a parental self-report. They have to be a U.S. citizen or resident, and they have to be between 14 and 18, and they have to be attending a target school at the time of enrollment in the program. So if you are attending Sparks High when we recruit you, but you suddenly decide to switch to Reno High before we start serving you, then we can no longer serve. But if you're in the program and then you decide to switch schools, then we can choose to still serve the student. But again, those are not our rules, those are the federal government's rules. It's a pretty rigorous application process. It's a competitive program. Students want into the program. So we have about 30 to 35 spots annually within Washoe County School District. Parents and students have to fill out the application, come in for interview, provide documentation, because we have to have that on file for the federal government. Kind of a misnomer about Upward Bound is that we look for only high achieving students, that we want all 4.0 students. We really care more about motivation. That's what we're looking for. How badly do you want to go to college and how much are you willing to work for it? And so that's what we really care about, because we can help the students, right? That's why we're all here. And if you're coming out of 8th grade, sometimes 8th graders may not have perfect grades, but we want to support them to get them there. So that's really important to us, is motivation. This gives you an idea of our demographic breakdown I just did within Washoe County. So we're 97% students of color. Our federal mandate says that each of our grants has to be at least 2/3 first generation low income. We are 88%. So, and you can see our breakdown within our target schools, and the other are the students that were originally at the target schools that have transferred elsewhere, and 12 of those 13 are at TMCC High School. So, as you can see, we're a pretty diverse program. We provide really intensive academic support to our students, and they're pretty much the same as other programs. Some unique things about Upward Bound that I'll tell you about. Our counselors are embedded in the target schools 4 days a week. So they're required to meet with the students at least twice monthly for individual academic advising sessions, but because they're embedded in the schools and really become part of that culture, which we greatly appreciate how wonderful our target schools are to us in opening up space, they develop really strong relationships, and the students are seeing their counselors like every day. Other things that are unique, we provide tutoring on the university campus, so we provide transportation for them to come to campus to get tutoring up to 3 nights a week. We have an SAT, ACT prep specialist. And then we also provide a summer program. It's a 5-week residential program. They live in the university residence halls and take classes to prepare them for, to help prepare them for the coming school year. And then we do a lot of co-curricular programming. We have a theme curriculum and try to tie all that in. We do college tours across the country. Recently, we've taken students to Hawaii, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Seattle, Oregon, and then, of course, also Nevada bound. Last year, 80% of our students that matriculated to college matriculated to the University of Nevada, but we also want them thinking about graduate school, and we want them to find the right fit for them. So other things that are sort of unique about Upward Bound, we do provide internship opportunities during our summer academies. Students can work within offices on campus. And then also we have partnerships with Upward Bound Math Science programs. So once a student has done a summer with us, they can apply to these highly competitive Upward Bound Math Science programs. And this past summer, we had 29 students attend Upward Bound Math Science 6 weeks programs at UC Berkeley, UC Santa Cruz, and University of Hawaii Hilo. We also have opportunities for free dual enrollment at the university, which is pretty great. I'll hurry up. Again, we're constantly communicating with our students. Our students have wonderful family support. Upward Bound is intense, and the whole family commits. We offer monthly meetings for our parents during our Saturday sessions. We bus students to campus one Saturday a month, and they spend the entire day with us doing grade level programming that's appropriate for college preparation for that age. So it's definitely, we the whole family comes to Upward Bound. We have very intensive federal reports that we do every year. So I thought you might like to see our federal objectives and then our performance, because we are extremely proud of our students. So you have this and you can read it, but as you can see, we're beating our federal metrics by a lot. So we're very excited about that. We're obviously very happy. And this is, we're very proud of our retention graduation rate, 99.5%. And as Mara Luz said, it's really hard to hit that 100. Every once in a while we do. We track our students all the way through high school graduation and 6 years beyond. And we track every student who's ever been in the program. So if they were in the program, they move away, they choose not to participate anymore, we still track them and they go into our objectives. So it's not just those that are active with us. If you've been served by Upward Bound one day, past the probation period, which is 60 days, we will track you 6 years beyond graduation. And then obviously, this past grant cycle, this last 5 years was the first time that Upward Bound has ever tracked post-secondary completion. And so we were pleased with that, but those are students that were in the program a while ago, and I think we will continue to see that number grow. So we're going to work really hard for that. But this past year, we are only allowed to track students if they attend college the fall semester immediately following high school graduation. So that was at 85%. If we could track all of our students that matriculate within the first year, that number would be higher. But if they enroll in the spring, the federal government doesn't let us count them. So, and now I will turn it over to someone who is the wonderful embodiment of Upward Bound, and that's Victor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Superintendent Davis, President Taylor, and Board of Trustees. My name is Victor Arriaga Medina. I'm actually a graduate from Hug High School. I just graduated this passing June, and I'm also an alumni from Upward Bound. Words truly can't express how much this program means to me and how much it's completely transformed my life. I'm a first-generation student, and the idea of college was like also other first-generation students. It was just an idea, and I felt really ambitious, even calling it a dream. You know, the steps to even believing that I could go to college were imaginary, and I never had anybody completely invest their time and efforts into my future as Upward Bound did, and I'm truly thankful for that. And I believe that the process and even attending college, which I am now a freshman at the University of Nevada, Reno, it would have been extremely difficult. But like I said, we do have an extremely intensive tutoring program, as well as our advising sessions. They really do get on us, and they get on us 24/7, 365, whether it's spring break or the fall break or going into the winter as well. We do also have the summer programs, which I also attended, and they really helped in preparing for the following academic year. And all around, it's just a great program. I don't have enough words to express how truly grateful I am and how well of a job they do. But going more into my experience in Upward Bound, the thing that I found most, besides the academic process and them just helping you build great academic habits, was the personal and, I guess, mental changes that they really help you have. And that's in terms of, having the confidence to even think about college and having the confidence to put yourself out there and really, really advocate for yourself, whether we're going to Washington, D.C., which I went to that, so we advocated on behalf of Upward Bound at Washington, D.C., and then they also took us down to the Capitol. So Carson City, we also sat on actually a board where we advocated on AB bill or Assembly Bill AB 27. We advocated for that, and then I've also been invited to speak at the Reno City Council, and then through there the mayor personally invited me to go speak at the State of the City address, which was awesome. And surprisingly, I was a shy student for the longest time. Yeah, and I don't know, Upward Bound really transforms you academically, but like I said, the mental and personal change that it provides for you it's endless, and it just gives you the confidence to put yourself out there, really advocate yourself, like I said, and the mentality to do whatever you want, and achieve whatever you want and whatever you put your mind to. So endless thanks to Upward Bound. I'm actually working for them right now. I'm a student worker, so I wanted to stay, and it's a blast. It truly is, and the dedication that they put towards their students and the mentalities that they instill with them, that work ethic and the idea of just creating truly excellent professionals it's amazing.
Well, as you can see, Victor is a slacker. A complete embarrassment to the district. No, I mean, really, and I mean, we've been proud of Victor for a very long time. He had just an incredible senior year, and the writings that you did and the exposure that you got and how you handled it and how you commanded your brigades. Hug having two, doing your ROTC career, your stellar ROTC career is just outstanding. So it's a wonder why Ellen grabbed you and kept you just to really just be the embodiment of what the Upper Brown program is all about. I will say this about Miss Houston, about Ellen. Yeah, I hired her, but she's pretty incredible. And the work that I actually hired her 3 times, believe it or not. So different jobs. She didn't keep quitting. Different jobs, and each of them moved her forward. But just an incredible job, and just to have any involvement in any of the programs that help our students graduate and then just achieve whatever that next step is for them is a big part of what we're all about. I mean, being college and career ready and walking across that stage isn't about getting that paper. It's being positioned for what's next. So really, all of the programs that play a part of that, I know we're all very proud of that, and it's good to be able to see them in our face, to see what happens. So thank each of you for the work that you do. And now you're continuing to do that work, and we continue to follow you and look with excitement for what's next for Mr. Victor Medina.
Thank you.
Ms. Houston, anything else? You're all good?
No, just thank you so much. We really appreciate the partnership with Washoe County School District. When we go to our TRIO conferences, not very many Upward Bound programs enjoy the type of partnership that we have, and it really means a lot to us, and our target schools are just awesome. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And I think any board member here is available for any other trip to Hawaii.
Well, please come to the celebration. Please come. You're always welcome. Any Saturday session, any summer. We love to have visitors.
It's crazy wild up there, that summer session, I'm telling you. Yes, please, Trustee Raymond.
So, Ellen, you're at the university, your office. Do you find then that you end up kind of continuing with some of these kids who end up at the university, or are still advising them in a way? I mean, you're obviously hiring them.
What we do actually is under the federal TRIO umbrella, there are other types of TRIO grants that support college students. So the University of Nevada has a Student Support Services grant, which is upward bound at the college level. So we encourage our students to apply for that program, of which Victor is a member. And then once they do that, they can also apply for the McNair Scholars Program, which is a TRIO program that helps them prepare for graduate study to help diversify the academy, much like DFS wants to diversify the teaching faculty. So I think that's really what we try to do. We also connect them with the Center for Student Cultural Diversity, any programs that we can. And when we have students going elsewhere, we always call those institutions and try to get them connected with support programs there.
Great, thank you. I talked a little bit with Mari Luz about this when I toured DFS, and I think it's so important to be able to continue that work. And when the program ends at graduation, we're not really doing that service to make sure that they continue to get that support. So I'm glad that there is continuation of that program. So,
well, and we still track them for 6 years.
Yeah.
So if when we're tracking them, we notice they might need a little help, we can't do it on federal time, but on our own time, we're always happy to give them assistance.
Great. I have some general questions about all of this. Is this an okay time?
Yes, it is. Just anything else for the Upward Bound team here? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Please, Lauren, go ahead. Go ahead, Trustee Raymond.
So this might be more for the superintendent or Dr. Deputy. So are there any gaps right now? I see we're covering most of the high schools that are Title I, and through each program there's some overlap, but as we kind of talk this morning about budgeting and looking into the future for our high school students, when we lose that Gear Up grant, do we need to be thinking about what support we need to fill in with? And then my other question was, how does AVID fit in with all of this?
You want me to take a stab and Dr. Deputy can add on. So gaps. I think there's always going to be gaps in the system based on targeted audience, right? When you think about schools in general, I think there might be this piece of the pie for schools that are not at risk necessary free and reduced lunch, but parents are working parents, but they still might struggle. So for us to think that there aren't other opportunities to reach more kids, I think that exists. How we address it, don't have necessarily an answer. AVID is another program that is about how kids understand college, and it's in 3 of our schools right now. It's at Sparks, Dilworth, and Sparks Middle School. So it's another program. The difference, I think, with those programs has to be associated with cost through district. I mean, there's a couple pieces around that. AVID's a really good program. However, we cannot afford to expand that program. And the other thing is we looked at schools because we also have JAG, right? We have all these programs, and some of those programs address some of those issues in those pies. I think we'd have to do a deeper dive to see actually what portion of a population are we missing, right? I mean, I don't think unless you get 100% graduation rate that that's just like that you're missing someone. But I think there's a lot of things being done to address some of those things globally. And it is our hopes, whether it's through CTE, Signature Academy, JAG, AVID, TRIO, that we touch everybody in some kind of space, no matter who you are, that you have something that you can reach for. You want to add, Dr. Deputy?
So for the record, Kristen McNeil, Deputy Superintendent. So all I'll say is with the grants team, they're always looking out for federal grants. So whether it's Title II with teachers and principals or Title IV, which is a grant that we used to receive as far as safe and healthy schools, we're always looking out for additional opportunities for funding. With the AVID program, we actually worked with a lot of our community foundations and our community partners to fund that program as well. So just as Superintendent Davis said, it's always, going out there and seeing whether, what other opportunities. I will say that at every single one of our high schools, we always have students who are at risk and who are in need. We look for opportunities as well with our AP exams, so any additional funding that we can provide for AP exams, because that becomes, if you're a scholar and you're taking 4 or 5 of those AP classes, that can be a pretty penny for a family. So again, we're always looking for those additional funding opportunities.
And then I'll say what we do with our high schools is we don't make it, if this school A is doing AVID, we don't say school B, you need to do the same thing. We look at what works for their school communities, right? And so when you look across the smorgasbord of opportunities afforded to students, you'll see different schools do different things, and the principals really work with us to justify so that they are getting the bang for their buck for what they have, because what we don't want is compliance in our schools. And we did see that, somebody said I had to do this program. We want it to be meaningful for the students so that they are engaged, not compliance, right? We know how that works in schools. So in a thoughtful way. So I think we're trying to do a good job of making sure each school has what they need, whether it's Reno High School or whether it's Sparks High School.
You have more, Trustee Raymond?
Great. I think there's obviously this proven result from these programs of kids graduating, and I don't want to see, us lose the programs and whatever. I know everyone has budget issues that we're dealing with, and if we could just, have the universe answer the call with the money. But I've heard a little bit from constituents and things about, well, is there duplication, because you look at like a Hug High School that has all of the programs, right? I don't know if it doesn't have AVID, but it has all three.
Yeah, they don't have AVID.
But, I think if we're touching a kid and helping them with 3 different programs and giving them 3 different opportunities to get the support, then I don't think that's duplication. I think that we're just doing our due diligence to try to help them. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a school that didn't have any of this offered or any ability for a kid to get the help. And I know we can't be at every high school, but whatever as trustees we can do to help, on the community end to get it into more schools. I'd like to be able to do
Yeah, so I
that.
think every high school has something, depending on what it is. And I just know we were talking to Chris about JAG at Reno to address certain issues. So every high school has something, and part of that you can see in their school performance plans and the work that they're doing. And you know that as we do visits. I think one of the things we pushed for in the past 3 years was not to tell people what to do because other people thought it was good. What could they do to support kids and get a return on the investment? And I think as we look at the work that our high schools are doing based on graduating, getting kids to the finish line and trying to get them to college, career pathways, or military, we're seeing some significant success around that return.
Thank you very much. Alex, I'm going to ask you to weigh in on this, just from a student perspective. Are you finding that students enjoy these programs? Is it making a difference from an anecdotal standpoint?
I definitely think that these programs are making a difference. It's just helping the kids getting the education that they deserve, I guess. Yeah.
Good, because certainly research shows that students that have some people need a little extra help in various different ways, and the things that we can do to help close those gaps is making a difference, especially for those students that need a little extra help. So, again, just thank you so much for all of the program work, all the grant work, and all the work that you and your team do, and all the teams for those programs to help kids get there and get over that hump and continue. And thanks for coming to update us. Oh,
Thanks,
Trustee Kelly. Trustee Kelly has a comment. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
have a quick question, probably for the superintendent or Dr. Deputy. The space issue, Dean's Future Scholars had mentioned that they're in a tight space. I don't know if any of the other programs are also having space constraints, but I'm just wondering, is that just like strictly based on funding, or we have such a great partnership with UNR on so many levels. Can't there be some way that we can look at the space and see if there's a bigger, better space, or what's the issues behind that?
I think this might be several of us responding. I think part of it is that even though we supply the kids, the programs are done on the university campus. So when we talk about the university campus, I really can't speak to their space, but I know summer school is taking place, sports camps are taking place. Like, I've been up there, so I know all the stuff that's going on. So they're trying to manage their space. So I can't speak to the space issues at the university and how that works.
Please turn the mic on if you would. Thanks, Ellen.
Okay. Yes, I fight for space every day. So I feel like I can speak to it a little bit. We are in a space that was initially allocated for one grant. We now have 3. I'm happy to report, wrote another grant. It got a perfect score. It's sitting in the funding band. We're waiting to see, there's like 100 programs in the funding band, and they're going to fill 22 new programs. We're waiting to see on that. They don't know where they're going to put us. They promise me they'll find space. The university's growing so rapidly, and they've hired hundreds of new academic faculty, and there's a lot of building going on, but they need classrooms, they need faculty offices, they need administrative staff space. So it's just really difficult. They work with us as much as they can, but it's going to continue, I think, to be an issue for all of us.
Well, I'm wondering, certainly you asking for space, you're doing the best you can, but maybe if the superintendent and you are asking for space, or the school board and you are asking for space, maybe that would be a little bit more leeway
Yes.
to get something done. So that's something I'd like to see us trying to help out if we can.
Yes, I don't have that much pull.
Are you still in Kane Hall?
We are still in Kane Hall.
Ooh. I think people go in Kane and never come out. I'm just saying. Just saying.
It is a bit of a bunker.
Yes, I'm just saying. But grateful for the space, so.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you again very much. Ms. Olin, you have anything to wrap it up, or we're all good?
Nope. I'm finished with this presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for coming, and thanks for all the students. Mary Lou, thank you for coming. You really need to come out of your shell just a little bit more. Just a little more. But we really appreciate it. And your students and alums that have been here, we appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you. For my own personal comfort, we're going to take a quick 7-minute break and come back, and we have just a couple more agenda items, and we can finish up for the evening. Okay, I will call this meeting back to order, and we'll jump right into agenda items 5.02, presentation and possible approval of the grant application to the Nevada Department of Ed. for the Nevada Kids Read by 3 grant program. This is for $4,756,200. $4,756,257. And before us is our Chief Academic Officer and team, who's been waiting patiently.
Yay! I told them we'd probably be toward the beginning of the agenda, so
yeah, great. Thank
I
you.
owe these guys something. President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, and members of our board, Deborah Beiersdorf, Chief Academic Officer, and I think the segue from hearing about TRIO and Gear Up and DFS, et cetera, into Nevada Kids Read is a perfect one, because what are we doing to prepare our students to be super successful at the high school level and go on to bigger and greater things? So we are here today to present to you the Read by Grade 3 / Nevada Kids Read grant that is now entering into its second year. We want to provide you with highlights from year one. Year one, as you will hear, was super, super busy, and year two will prove to be super, super busy as well. So let me introduce you. You know Lauren Olin, our Director of Grants. Next to Lauren is Dr. Eric Feeney, who is our lead administrator for Nevada Kids Read, Zoom, and Victory programming. Next to Eric is Mandy Van Dellen, who is our coordinator for the Nevada Kids Read grant. And next to Mandy is Karen Parisho, who is an administrator in our Department of Professional Learning. So they've worked hard to bring you good information today and answer your questions. And I'm turning it over to Eric Feeney.
Good afternoon, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, and members of the board. I will say that all my jokes sunset at 5. So if you want to invite me back to another board meeting, make sure I present before 5 o'clock. No, I appreciate the opportunity that we have an opportunity to present about this very important goal of keeping individual dreams strong and the Read by Grade 3 goal. The reason you see, well, let me give you just a little bit of context. Read by Grade 3 is a competitive grant application, and as you heard, it's about $4.7 million. So we just submitted our application 3 weeks ago. So we're waiting on NDE to review to find out what they will approve, and hopefully we'll get full approval and be able to move forward. The reason you see 3 grants up there, Zoom Schools, Victory Schools, and also the Nevada Kids Read, is because NDE has a policy that there is no cross-funding. So if you're identified as a Zoom school, you can't receive Read by Grade 3 funds, and if you're a Read by Grade 3 school, you can't receive Victory funds. So it's made it a little bit challenging, but it necessitates us to really strategically braid and leverage funding across multiple grants. Because this goal of Read by Grade 3 obviously is for every kid in all 69 of the elementary schools. So we've gotten good at and continue to get good at braiding these funds across these multiple grants. And the goal is really to maximize the quality of implementation as we work towards this important goal. But it does take some time, and there are trade-offs when we start talking about the comprehensiveness of the plan, the practicality of it, and then really looking at the growth over time. But that is our goal, and we've strategically got all 3 of these grants orchestrated and working together more efficiently, hopefully, this second year coming up. I did want to highlight just and recognize the importance of the alignment between the Washoe County Strategic Goal 1 and the goal of Nevada Kids Read. The alignment piece is critical, and we continue to strengthen and implement the strategies to align department goals across curriculum, Department of Professional Learning, assessment, MTSS, family school partnerships. This is a huge goal, working with the 69 elementary schools, and it really takes a network of resources to do that. The leadership piece and developing principals to be literacy leaders, as well as our learning strategists. Our coaches that work in our schools, and of course our K-4 teachers, are all priorities for leading this literacy initiative as we move forward. And you'll hear a little bit more about some of the strategies that have been implemented over the last year and heading into next year. The resources, again, creating a network of organizational resources to provide the training and support to schools is an important goal that we've set forward as we move forward to implement some of these strategies to move towards getting all kids to read by grade 3. And ultimately, we talked about this earlier, just that the results focus and focusing on results. At the end of the day, I mean, the goal is kids need to be reading at grade level. So that really is the true measure. And of course, it takes a network of resources. So as we work to support teachers and principals with their short-term outcomes as well as their long-term outcomes, at the end of the year, it's critical that we get those kids to be reading at grade level. That will be the true measure, but it takes a combination of lots of different goals and strategies at multiple levels as we move forward to do this important work.
Good evening, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, and members of the board. Mandy Van Dellen for the record. I would like to start by sharing some of our highlights from the 16-17 school year with you. And the first is district-wide implementation. As Dr. Feeney mentioned, the difficult challenge of having 3 different grants that we are trying to navigate and support all schools. Last year we were successful at implementing the components of the law as well as professional learning for all 69 schools. That includes Gerlach, North Star, as well as 5 of our charter schools. So that was a huge success for us. As well as cross-department team collaboration. We have a Nevada Kids team that meets every 2 weeks last year and is continuing to do so this year. And the intent of those meetings is to work on our messaging, make sure that when we are out at our sites and working with principals, teachers, LSs, that we have a cohesive message that is consistent across all of our schools so that we're not breaking down any of the understandings of the law or implementation. We also use that time to engage in the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. So looking at our data, where are we at, what's our feedback from all of our sites, what are we seeing when we're out at sites, and how can we continue to refine and improve our practice to support our schools in that manner. And then at the end of last year, we utilized that time to start brainstorming and planning for the 17-18 grant writing. So making sure that we were being proactive and not reactive in our time frame that we were given from the state. Additionally, if you have read the law, you understand that it's written in a very deficient-based model. We have worked hard with all of the 9 departments in our team, as well as the district, to make sure that we are addressing reading proficiency for all students and not just those who are possibly deficient at this time. We believe that it's important that we are compliant with the law, but taking a preventative approach for all students instead of a reactive response for just those who are identified as possibly deficient. In order to do that, we have had a huge focus on Tier 1 instruction, so making sure that we are providing evidence-based practices for our teachers, our learning strategists, paraprofessionals, and utilizing instructional rounds district-wide to monitor and support our sites with that implementation. So again, the Tier 1 is that huge piece if we're going to be preventative and making sure that we're catching all students early on at the classroom instruction. When we talk about reaching all students, so we need the Tier 1 to meet in the classroom and differentiate, and then also our intervention. So how are we supporting our Tier 2 and Tier 3? We were able to collaborate with Lesley University to bring LLI systems to our schools, as well as Phonics First, which is through BrainSpring. Both of those interventions were purchased for all of our sites, and at least one certified teacher from each site was able to attend training for how to implement and utilize those resources. And then the other layer to all of this is our leadership and principals. So last year we brought Lesley University, so Irene Fountas herself and Cindy Downson from Lesley, and they came and did a training with our administrators around best practices, what does it look like, how can we support and coach teachers with evidence-based literacy practices through a comprehensive approach. Additionally, our team worked hard to provide individualized school support. So that consisted of site visits, differentiating resources. So we were able to provide common resources for all schools, but then also give sites the option out of a select list of resources that they could choose from to meet their site's needs and make sure that they're getting resources that are also valuable for their specific site. And then on-site coaching around the monitoring and assessment tools and just the learning strategist roles. There's quite a bit of roles and responsibilities, and majority of ours are classroom teachers. So working with sites to work with scheduling and problem solve how they can utilize their time efficiently and effectively. And then last but not least, as you know, the family is a huge integral part of this work in making sure that our students are on track for not only proficiency by 3rd grade, but also for long-term success in the school system. So we worked with our family school partnerships and communications department to provide professional learning on honest, data-driven conversations. So what does that look like with our conferences, and how are we communicating information around proficiency with parents in a way that is digestible for them, but also highlighting the urgency and the supports and the importance of the partnership with both of them. And then we also, our communications department has been amazing in providing and developing family-friendly videos and resources, flyers, documents, so that this wasn't just something that came out to parents and they had no understanding where it was coming from or what the intent. And again, with their work, spinning this so that we're being proactive for their child and not reactive. So ensuring how we're working with our parents and families to best support their students.
Mandy, may I interject right here? She's
Yes.
like, who's
No, I'm like, wait.
speaking? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Are you finding, and I listened to the tools that the communications team has been fantastic about putting together and so on. Are you finding that families are aware of this? I mean, I know there's a big effort going on, but sometimes.
No, 100% probably not, but I think that we are continuing to message. We're using, I know you guys talked earlier about Facebook and Twitter and community events. We're working to establish data nights at schools. So I think we are getting there, and I think the resources are helping. And communications has been phenomenal about analyzing what's being used. I know this year they're talking about radio ads and just what are the mediums that really reach our families and our families that may not have access to, Twitter or using Facebook. So I think that we are continuing to refine that and look at all aspects to reach all populations.
Are any of those tools bilingual by chance?
They all are, yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, with Spanish.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then
Sorry, I just have
Trustee Raymond.
Yeah.
Sorry, go
This
ahead.
might just be my tired brain today. Can you remind me what the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 mean?
Yes. So our Tier 1 is kind of access for all students. We hope 80% of our students. And then Tier 2 and Tier 3 are your bottom 20% of a grade level. So when you look at data, the struggling students in there. So by law, we base that on the MAP score, but we encourage utilizing MTSS process, so then go further into other data points to identify where what might be the barrier, where is that student struggling in terms of literacy. Does that answer, or do you need more?
So if I can jump in, Tier 2 would receive additional support in addition to Tier 1. So everybody gets Tier 1, and then children who require services under Tier 2 would get time in addition to that Tier 1, and then Tier 3 is really more individualized. Yes. So it's one-on-one or one-on-two. Yes.
And I had a question on the Tier 1, 2, 3 as well. Do you look at just the final grades, or do you look at progression, or do you look at how the student has done over specific amounts of time, or how does that work?
So the way the law is written, a student receives a parent notification and a reading plan based on MAP indicator, which is 1 score. So that is the starting point, and then we utilize our MTSS process to look at multiple pieces of data, trends, and progress over time.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
So yeah, just the last two on the family communication was also working to provide opportunities for families over fall break, winter break. So events going on in the community that support literacy and making sure that parents are being aware of the opportunities that they can have to continue engaging in literacy in a fun way, and then also in a academic way, so supports for those. And then we have worked to also develop a Nevada Kids Read website, which is accessible to both families, and then also when staff log into it, they can log into there for resources and information around Nevada Kids Read and the supports available.
All right, I think I get the funnest part of the presentation. I get to bring the voice of the stakeholders to all of you. So good evening, President Taylor, Superintendent Davis, members of the board. Karen Parashow for the record. So we, as part of the monitoring process with the state, Mandy and I got to go out to the sites and see things going on and walk Dr. Lax all around our schools. And then also we engaged 24 of our schools in the profile process that was required by the state. They only required 5, but we thought we wanted to fairly represent our district being so large. So we chose 4 schools from each of the 6 areas last year and submitted a portfolio for each one of those. And so a part of that portfolio was an interview with the family. So we chose 1 student per school. There was an interview with the family, with the teacher of that child, with the child, and then with the learning strategist of that school. So what you'll see coming up on the screen is just the voice of those stakeholders. So the first slide is quotes from parents and students about how they have grown as a reader throughout the year. So take a minute and look at those. So kind of fun to see. They also had the children draw pictures, which were really interesting to look at. And then if we look at the next slide, we also interviewed the classroom teachers and the learning strategists. So here is some thoughts they had about the biggest impacts that Read by Grade 3 Nevada Kids Read had on their site and on their teaching.
Okay, hello again. For the record, Laura Nolan, Director of Grants. So as we mentioned, highly competitive application that we put together. And we also had to align our plan with the state literacy plan. And under the Nevada State Literacy Plan, they have 5 tenets or essential elements that we had to include in the plan. So leadership and sustainability, data-driven decision-making, literacy assessment, professional learning, and family and community engagement. So as Eric and Mandy have already spoke to a little bit, our plan really focuses on being proactive and not reactive. And the goal of the grant is actually to educate all our teachers and principals so that they're well-equipped to do Tier 1 literacy instruction, and then also how to deliver those literacy interventions. So all 5 of those elements that you see up there are around that goal. And one part on the family and community engagement that I just wanted to point out, Dr. Taylor, is those videos that were done, also when parents were going in to talk to their teacher about their kid who may not be reading at grade level, while they were waiting to speak to the teacher, because there might be other parents ahead of them, there is a video going that also explained to them what Read by Grade 3 was, so that they weren't walking in like without a clue at all of why they were being called to the to their teachers, or to their child's teacher's room. So I think that helped a lot. And I have to say really big kudos to Delisa Crane, because the law was written very much legalese, and she walked into one of our meetings and said no parent is going to understand any of this. So we spent a lot of time trying to make it so that the man on the street, parent on the street, could understand what this really meant for their family and for their child.
I think it's going to advance. So some of the highlights for this year's work with Nevada Kids Read is a lot, again, in professional learning like it was last year. So when you're touching all 69 schools and we've got this giant workforce out there, there's a lot of work to be done in building their capacity around best practice and realigning our system as a whole. And so some of the highlights for this year that are different than last year is that although we're going to continue to provide professional learning just for the learning strategist at each site, which is required under the law, we've expanded that so that every other month we have what we're calling a Team Teal Tuesday, which is when we bring the learning strategist, the site administrator, the psychologist, and the school counselor all together to engage in professional learning as a team to really hit on that essential one of leadership and sustainability and spreading that across the site so that it's not all resting with one person, but we're really approaching it as a team. And then also we've got a couple of grant partnerships highlighted up there. The Leslie University providing that literacy continuum training. So the literacy continuum is a wonderful resource that we brought into the district last year. Teachers find it really valuable. It breaks down the elements of comprehensive literacy into the goals and the different areas. It's really teacher friendly for lesson planning and things like that, but going more in depth with that literacy continuum. So we're going to provide that training to some of our sites. And then also the Partners in School Innovation, strengthening the capacity within 6 of our buildings in some specific areas with leadership and aligning those systems, and starting with just a small group of 6 schools with that one.
And then this is a continuation talking about how we're sustaining the work. This is the direct student supports. So one of the big pieces we gathered last year was we're hungry for the comprehensive approach, but we still have to differentiate within that. So as you can see on the left side, areas we're going to continue to differentiate within in terms of comprehensive literacy best practices. And then to highlight one of the new additions is the extended day and intercession with after-school tutoring. So working with some of our schools to bring in that component as well. And then we'll continue with trainings and support around the interventions and resources that were brought in for students, and family engagement will also remain the same. I think to add on to what Lauren was just speaking about with parent-friendly resources, you'll see up there the addition of individualized intervention plan workshops. So really working on, every student who's identified as possibly deficient has to have a reading plan or intervention plan that is sent home and shared with the families. It is initially written for teachers to utilize to support their instruction. So how can we modify that so that it's digestible to parents and they understand where their child's at, what supports we're providing, and how we're going to progress monitor. So that'll be a nice addition to this year's family supports as well.
I have a quick question on the after-school tutoring and extended day and intercessions. Is that going to be for every school, or are you looking at maybe as a pilot program doing some schools and then expanding it from there?
So what we'll do is we're going to start with 20 schools and the extended day, and what we're going to do is take the level literacy intervention system, and it'll be an 18-week program where we'll identify 3 K2 teachers. Some schools might have the capacity to do more than 3 teachers, but we'll start with 3, identifying about 300 to 400 kids. So we'll have a cohort of kids that will actually go through the 18-week extended day program, and we'll monitor and track the data. And the goal, again, back to the results focused, just having that orientation. You know, we have these evidence-based programs like the Level Literacy Intervention System, and of course the research has been done, but now we need to do the action here and see the results with our kids. And so the goal would be to have that structured 18-week extended day program to provide the results, and then of course scaling that as we move forward into the following year.
And would it be just certified teachers, I guess, that would be doing that? Could volunteers help out? Could it be a combination of the two? Or are there laws that say they have to be teachers, certified teachers only?
There's no laws, but what we're going to do is stick to the fidelity of the program, so it will be just certified teachers. The goal will be to stick to groups of 3 to 4 kids. The system was designed to work with small groups for intensive instruction. It's a supplement to the guided reading that's done in Tier 1 instruction, and the goal would be that you're accelerating kids. So we're working with a cohort of kids that, you know, by the time we finish with them with the 18-week program, they'll be reading at grade level. So we're strategic in the kids that we would identify and select for that.
Any other question, comments? Yes, Trustee Raymond.
Just sort of along those lines, there's been a group of us that have been meeting, the City Councilman David Bobzing and his team that run the Sierra Kids program, and at one of our recent meetings we just talked about how Sierra Kids could, with their after school program, kind of support the work of Nevada Kids Read, and not in that, you know, intervention sense, but more just setting aside a block of time that's just dedicated to reading for those kids and making it a little more strategic at each of the Sierra Kids sites, and maybe creating something that then could be duplicated at other sites that have different after-school programs. So I think we'll probably be talking to you about that at some point. So.
Thank you, Trustee Raymond. Yes, Superintendent Davis.
So I love the comments, and so you only get this if you've been a part of teaching and reading, the whole chunking and right, or you have to teach a kid reading, right, and blends, and I'm like, oh my goodness, right? You know what that entails for a kid, but how powerful is it for a kid to actually identify it, right, in their reading? That's super amazing. So that's like my favorite comment of all the comments was chunking and blending.
I still, with my daughter, do chunking. I mean, she's in 3rd grade and she's a really great reader, but when she comes across a word, it was so helpful. And she sort of, she's, like I said, a 3rd grader, so she wasn't in kindergarten when this started, but her teacher sent home a bookmark that she still uses with all the strategies on it. And she's reading the 4th Harry Potter right now, and when she comes across a word, I still give her that bookmark to, I don't tell her how to say the word, I give her the bookmark.
Yeah, we didn't chunk. Yeah, we didn't chunk when I was in school, but I'm glad that it is working so effectively. Thank you so much for your work, and it really makes that goal of the read by 3 and the deadlines behind it. It really, I mean, the comments from the students, and I really want to congratulate you on the comments from the staff, from the teachers, saying that there's been a common message from the district, and the district is positioning them, equipping them to really do a good job to help the kids to get there. So that, I mean, that's exciting from our end, because so many times, you know, you hear the teachers feel like there's so much coming down and they aren't ready and they don't know how and so on, and you've really been intentional about getting the funding required to help them, you know, equip them to do it as well. So you're up there.
I think, for the record, Deborah Beiersdorf, one more comment, and Trustee Raymond, your comment about Sierra Kids, and yes, absolutely, our team up after school programs and everything, but we have a lot of community support, and I think one highlight that's happened recently is we are partnering with the Dolan Automotive Group, and at their, what do they sell down there? Very nice. If you've been down to their new space, but they are donating meeting space, and it's lovely for every one of our Teal Tuesdays. So we want to give a shout out to Dolan, the Dolan family.
Fantastic. Yes, Trustee Frankel.
Yeah, and I also want to thank you for all of your work. And one of the things that really stood out for me, in addition to the comments that have been made, the work you're doing with parents as well, and helping them understand the complexity of this and what this really means. So shout out to communications for your work and all of that. And I think just listening to Trustee Raymond's comments about how she works with her daughter, just that ongoing effort to help parents know how to reinforce what they are getting, so that they can not just step in and do it for them, but understand what chunking means. And, you know, I know for some parents that just knowing a little bit about, okay, how can I help just reinforce what they're getting? I think that kind of communication and the work that Delisa and her team are doing to help you all, I just want to say how important that is. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And just really to piggyback on that, the thing we don't want to happen is for a student to run into a challenge and they aren't necessarily prepared when it's third grade time and parents have known nothing about it and really have missed perhaps some opportunities to help their kid. And it really sounds like you're being intentional about targeting that. So certainly, just like what you said, Trustee Franco. Right now, we were looking for a motion to approve the grant application then to NDE. And if that is the pleasure of the board.
So moved. Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
Done. She
Yes.
moved.
I second.
Okay, done. That's what I like it. It's been moved. It has been moved and seconded that we approve the grant application to the Nevada Department of Ed for the Nevada Kids Nevada Kids Read by Grade 3 grant program for $4.7 million and some change. Any further discussion? And I don't see anyone. I don't think there's anyone here from the public to make a public comment, so okay. All right, then seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? The motion is carried. Let the record show that it is unanimous. And again, thank you so much for, such a great team making this happen. Yes. All right.
Indeed.
Now, last but certainly not least.
No, well, some might say quite small, but.
Yes, not least, 5.03. This is a presentation discussion. This is for discussion only, though. This is our discussion around the timelines for the strategic planning and for updates to Envision Washoe County School District 2020 and also 2025. And we began part of this conversation, as you may recall, at our work session. And so we're continuing it here now on with our Chief Communications and Community Engagement. Did I get that right? Yes, Officer.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Irene Payne. Thank you. Floor is yours.
So, good evening, Madam President. It's really nice to see you there. Trustees, Superintendent Davis. So, for the record, Irene Payne, Chief Communications and Community Engagement Officer. So I'm here to start the discussion around the possibility of updating the current strategic plan. So what I thought I would do to start that conversation is to give you some history around how the original strategic plan, which looked like this, Envision WCSD 2015, how this came to be. And at this point, when it was 2009, when we started to think about a strategic plan, the school district did not have a plan. So we started from a zero base, and I have to say the amount of work involved was pretty considerable. It involved having, and this is going back from my notes and my memory, but we had multiple committees. We had 11 committees made up of staff, parents, community members, arranged around different topics. And the topics would be, for example, academics, human capital, marketing, safety. And we had multiple meetings with those committees, with those 11 committees, in terms of what is it that you want to see from the district? What should we be aiming for? What should we be looking to achieve? We also had multiple, the board had multiple work sessions. We had multiple town hall meetings. And the whole process from start to finish actually lasted 11 months. And as I said, it was pretty much 11 months of intense work by the board and by the leadership team. But at that point, a strategic decision was made that it was that time investment was necessary and worthwhile because the school district did not have a roadmap in terms of moving forward. We also used the opportunity to do quite a few other things in terms of rebranding the district. So, our logo, coming up with a tagline, so every child by name and face to graduation. The Board of Trustees at that point also worked on a vision and a mission because they didn't exist at that point. Also, the Board of Trustees worked on core beliefs and a theory of action. So, as I said, there was multiple work sessions and multiple meetings. So as you know, that brings us up to date. And as you know, we're working on refreshing the existing strategic plan. So, following on from the work session that we had a few weeks ago, it's, the actual wording has been updated and it's now with communication. So we're just looking at the design and just getting ready to provide you with a finished product. And what that does, the contents of that plan, what that does, it takes us through to 2020 and is really designed to get us, the school district, to 90 by 20 and beyond. So staff, we come in front of you today to try and understand, or at least start the discussion in terms of what would you like to see after 2020. So it's 2017, so we've got some time, but the process is not quick. So with that, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Irene. This will be a really important discussion, for us to have as we go forward. We did a lot of great work at that work session on the existing plan, and that gets us for where we are. But it's, looking forward. So we'll start with Trustee Holland.
Thank you, Madam President. And I appreciate the great amount of work that it takes to do a great strategic plan. One of the things in my experience, a strategic plan nowadays, the best practice is not to go out that far. That 2 to 3 years is about as well as we can intelligently plan for. So that would be one comment, that we think about a shorter time horizon that we're planning within, because so many things change. I also recall from our discussion, we talked about some modest changes for 17-18, but we haven't really got a plan for what we're going to do for 18-19 to update. It's a concern to me that it's been 8 years since there was a full process, and I don't know what the turnover is in the district, but there's a lot of people here who weren't there then.
Right.
So I think I appreciate you, sort of looking ahead and seeing what should the process be in the future. And I absolutely appreciate, again, how much work it is. I would hope that we can have a discussion about a limited involvement process, a limited participation process, so that we can have an 18-19 plan that is refreshed, that does reflect what the future goals might be, doesn't have to reinvent the wheel, but does bring in some voices that haven't perhaps been heard in a while. So that's just some opening comments for me.
Thank you, Vice President Holland. Let me ask you, what do you mean by limited, and talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I don't think we necessarily need to have 11, publicly noticed committees, because that's a gigantic burden for all of you. But I do think that perhaps some community focus groups or forums where people could talk about what's important to them, what they like about the plan that exists now, and some input, some mechanisms for input from those strategic groups, like parents and like students and like teachers and administrators, so that we have an opportunity for those voices that weren't heard or haven't been heard for 8 years to participate and to be clear about what the strategic plan is now, and what's happening with it now. So that's what I mean by limited.
Okay.
We don't need 11 committees, but we should have some community and stakeholder input.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Kelly.
Yeah, I was on the board when we started that whole process, and between the logo and the mission and the vision and of course the strategic plan, and it was a tremendous amount of work. I mean, I think I had my first wrinkle during that process, and it wasn't even a facial wrinkle. I won't even say where it was at, but
clearly it's getting late. Clearly.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that with a big crowd of people here, but anyway, it did take a long time, and I certainly agree. If we were to do a completely new strategic plan, you would need 11 months and all these committees and stuff. But if we're looking at taking our strategic plan and strengthening it and tweaking it a little bit here or there, I still think that it's important to involve the community as much as you can. Because community buy-in is so important, because this strategic plan, it's kind of the document that almost everybody in the district goes by, and the parents, they get to know it, and so it's really important to keep that community engagement going. And then I would think that some of the big differences between when we came up with the plan 8 years ago and now, certainly there's been some staff turnover, but the students are a little bit different now than they were 8 years ago. They're much more technologically advanced. 8 years ago, I mean, we all knew technology was important, but now it's like it's much more important than it was then. And there's also been quite a few laws and NRSs and legal changes that just weren't there before. So yeah, I think that these are things that they do take some time, but I don't think it'll be quite as extensive as the previous one, because if we're just making some strategic changes, then I think that's something that as a district we can really get the community involved in. And not only will it get buy-in from the community, but people that maybe feel like their voices aren't being heard, it's a chance for them to talk about what's important out there for them, for their school, and it can be a really great process. And I know the communications team they help lead that effort, and it could be, I think, really successful if done correctly.
Thank you, Clerk Kelly. Other comments, thoughts from the board? Trustee Frankel?
Now, I was just thinking about what both of you were saying, and I think part of what I'm hearing might be the options that we're looking at here. As what you're describing is in some ways updating, and as are you, Trustee Kelly, updating the plan we currently have, and making it tighter, better, maybe modifying it, maybe adding a goal even. I mean, and I think, so are we talking about an Envision 2025, or are we talking about updating, refreshing, modifying, strengthening what we have in place? And I agree with you that 2 to 3 years out is probably what we should be focusing on. And so we did a lot of work to update and refresh a little bit on our own without too much interaction at this point, because there was pretty concrete things that we added, mostly measures and important measures that we added. We didn't change a lot of objectives. We didn't change the goals. But maybe that is something we should be checking in with the community about, is looking at what we have now, a great way to educate them about what we have in place, both the staff and the community and the students. And ask, is this what we need? And find ways so that we may be updating it before 2020. Even though it's Envision 2020, we may be adding that to Envision 2020 as well. So I think what I'm trying to clarify is, do we want to think about Envision 2025, or do we want to think about ways to involve the public in updating what we have now? And it's a good foundation. It built on a lot of work that wasn't there previously. We have it now. And I think that's going to save a lot of time, but it's also kind of just thinking about it a little bit differently, not necessarily we're doing a whole new strategic plan, but we're using the strategic plan that we had in place and making it better. Right, and so I think that's just sort of two different ways of looking at it. Do we want a new strategic plan, or do we want to take the strategic plan we've worked hard on and make it better with community input at this point in the process? It's a question.
Well, go ahead, Superintendent Davis. I was just kind of just to respond to this, if I may. It sounds like it's more the conversation of let's use what we have as a starting point. It may add a goal. Something may be changed. It may could be significantly based upon the input that we get, or what we have. New board members around that weren't involved 8 years ago, or even 3 years ago in 2015 when it was done. So any of that may happen. But for me, based upon what I'm hearing, and I've also just had a chance to reach out to a couple of people I know that work in strategic planning, we may not be looking at Envision 2025 anyway, just because it's so far out. So it may be however we land, it may be Envision 2021 or 2022 or something like that. So that time period, it seems like that's going to be shorter no matter what. If that's so it sounds like it is more of perhaps what you said, but maybe shorter. Yes.
If I could just build on that, I think one of the best practices now is that it's a regular process, and so that perhaps every 2 years we take a little bit of a deeper dive and check with the community and see how things are going and see if there are changes to be made. But each year we look at the strategic plan and say, how are we doing? Is there something that needs to be changed? But we start with what we have because it's good work. But it should always be something that we regularly come back to and look at. It's that we wouldn't ever assume that it would stay in place for even 3 years. That's a part of our regular work. Just like budgeting we do every year, we would want to take a look at the strategic plan each year, but maybe have a deeper dive every couple of years, 2 or 3 years. So I think starting with what we have is a great place to start, and reaching out and checking with folks and seeing if it's still relevant, and to all our many stakeholders.
Yes, Dr. Finster, then we'll go to Superintendent Davis.
Just a few comments. I'm recalling Dr. Nebgen's strategic plan, and I sort of look at what we have, and believe it or not, you come down to almost the same 4 or 5 basic things. I mean, like hiring was number one, and it was the one that we made the most progress in. And I would love to just, of course, Jerry Holloway would have this information because he kept everything. I'm sure he has everything since 1902. But to look at his the strategic plan from 1997, and then on to a Hager, and then I think we skipped for a while, and we have this. You have the same goals and objectives. Academic achievement. I think it's just about tweaking what we have, because when you bring all these people in, I got to tell you, they get so tired of seeing the same stuff and saying, okay, we're wasting so much paper on saying the same thing over and over again, because it's about academic achievement. It's about hiring the best teachers, best practices. It's there. So I think it's all about tweaking what we have rather than going back to 11 committees and dealing with all, the egos that, that come about in some of these committees and all these problems. It's just not worth it. Take what we have, because we have some good stuff, and I would hate to see us start all over again, because if we did, I guarantee you I could pull Dr. Nebgen's strategic plan, and you're going to go back to the same stuff. Graduation rates, it's all there. So why do we keep revisiting the same stuff? Let's just take it and update it. I think that is just so important, just to update it and involve several members of the community, but keep it with, to 4 or 5 strategies. That's it, because it's all the same stuff. It really is. I don't.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay, so we'll go to Superintendent Davis.
So my concern is that you're deliberating, and you basically are starting to take action, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4 of you agreeing. So this is a discussion only. So I'm just going to suggest that we be careful.
Okay. Thank you, General Counsel. Superintendent Davis.
Okay, so I think some good points about the actual strategic plan has been brought forth by people who've been here for a while, right, and new members. I think when we think about the plan and we think about what that looks like with school performance plans, right, we have schools write school performance plans every year. They take those performance plans and they review them based on data and outcomes, right? I do think it's a good idea to look at that plan, and we've reviewed it, and we talk about 2020. So this plan was built to lead us to the year 2020. And we started with every child by name and face to graduation. But as part of that, it has evolved to some very specific outcomes. 90 by 20 didn't start back 8 years ago. We start having a discussion about what those outcomes would be. And I think as we look at this process, this plan that we have, I think there's meaning in going out to the community with this plan and say, hey, here's where we are. Here's the results of it. And what are some ideas you might have? And I think it leads back to your point, Trustee Frankel. And I think some discussion around tweaking. I think when we're thinking about going out to build a whole new plan, that is probably something we have to think about along the way. And especially, you are right, Katie, best practices, there's talking about these 5-year, 8-year plans out the window, right? Do more 3-year chunking of plans and progress monitoring. So I think today was more about a discussion about the plan that we have built. I think we can all look at this plan and think about how we can beef it up as it relates to workforce development, right? There's things that have just come along through NRS. But the very bare bones of the plan, as it goes back to you, Trustee Finster, is it wording? Because the goals are about academics. The goals are around human resources. The goals are around, how we word those are the same. What I think ends up changing are the objectives that we use. But I think we've done that, right? The objectives, the measurable outcomes to reaching those goals, and then we can tweak the language. I think what we look at every year is the measurable objectives, right? Because that's where we start looking at What's the return on the investment? Read by 3. Do we have more kids reading at grade level by 3rd grade? And if we don't, what are things that we need to do as a district? Looking at science scores, right? Like globally, those pieces that I think we put in place with measurable objectives. I do think that we should go out and share that with the public, because everybody in the public doesn't know that we've done that, right? And then listen to some of the input. I think we created a better plan to get us to 2020. But I still think we need to tweak it every year based on data and funding and all those things. So I think we are all thinking about the same things and how we arrive there.
Well, yes, go ahead, Mr. Rombardo.
I'm sorry, I'm pondering this as we're talking, and I'm going to suggest that this comes back as an action item, given the way this conversation went tonight. And I want to be clear, it's not any one member who did anything. It's just when discussion items occur, it's always dangerous when we're all agreeing, because we're starting to take a vote. So I would just strongly suggest or advise the president that this should come back on an agenda as an action item to just have clear action.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Rombardo. And the discussion has given some indication that, we want to have a discussion that we can take action on and begin the process of moving forward in whichever way is the pleasure of the board. So why don't we do that? We bring that, yes.
I just wanted to make it's more of an idea, and it's more to sort of an idea for staff to think about, because I know we talked about this with the budget, about ways to survey the community. Maybe if there's some thinking that staff can do about when we come back with the action item to bring us some ideas for, in light of kind of this general sense that we're getting today, of how this could look. Maybe they could come back with some ideas of how could we survey the community about the budget and the strategic plan, because they kind of are related about priorities and things like that. So it's just a thought that maybe we could get some ideas from staff that we could discuss and deliberate upon in the future.
Okay, let's have some discussion around that. That gives an idea of the information that will be helpful for us as we actually take action on something moving forward. Okay, Ms. Payne, thank you very much. I see you taking notes, and we appreciate that. Okay, you're very welcome. I don't see any public comment coming from anything left. Okay. All right, so any desire for any future agenda items? Again, no discussion on this, and
yes,
those agenda items that should be dispatched on to me. Yes, Dr. Finster?
Yes, I would like to request someone to look into us receiving the suspensions on a monthly basis or bi-monthly basis, and that we take a look at those suspensions, because there's a lot of stuff in those suspensions. So if we could get copies of that, how I don't know who puts that information out, but I did have a short conversation with Ben Hayes about it, and he thought it was a great idea. We know that there is information in suspensions, so if we could just put that on the agenda. How do we get this? How often should we get it? Who's going to get it to us? I think it's very important.
Ms. Rombardo, I see you leaning in.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand. Suspensions of students?
Yes.
Okay, and so I think that's going to take a board action of we want to receive them, and then I'm going to have to give you an opinion on whether or not that can happen. So, okay. I know, but I want to make sure.
And you were talking about student suspensions, am I correct, Dr.
Yeah,
Finster?
student
Okay, that's what I
suspensions.
thought. Okay.
Yeah, not
okay.
staff or
Okay, well, we're making the list of the suggestions, and we'll deal according to like we do with every agenda item request. Any other agenda item requests? Seeing none, any public comment? Nope. All right, then our meeting is adjourned.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Dr. Finster, yes.
The last time we met, I thought we were going to discuss the issue that was at hand regarding adding information to the agenda if, at the last minute.
Goes back to policy.
Was
that's policy. That's at the policy committee, yes.
Okay, because I did have some information from Dottie, so
okay.
I can wait on that.
Yep, and the next policy committee meeting is in November, so, okay. All right, anything else? Your mic's on, you okay?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, then our meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting is on October 10th at 2 p.m. This is the day before my birthday, so if you guys want to get together and, bring some party hats or something, well, that'll be an agenda item. That will be an agenda item for action. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.